Go. Ready?
It's the MythWits, a geek pop culture web series, broadcast live for video and audio podcasts. Watch us live at mythwits.com and find us on YouTube and iTunes, bringing you news and reviews about geek pop culture. We have comedy skits, play nerd-tastic games, and provide extensive on-location con coverage. And now, your hosts.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the MythWits. I am your host, Peter Bryant, and tonight we have a great, awesome, science-y type show. But before we go there, I'm going to introduce the people joining me this evening. First and foremost is my co-host and associate producer, Michael Kafis. Hey, and by the way, this show is safe for work, at least for now.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Wait a minute,
What?
That's right. What?
It still may or may not be safe for certain other things, even if it is safe for work. I mean, it depends on where you work. It may still not be safe for certain things.
Right. I would say it's safe for... What? What?
Would you say it was safe for, say, I don't know, like a really huge brown recluse spider with, like, 5,000 babies on the back of its, back ball there, just crawling around.
No,
is it a wolf spider? Yeah, is it safe for that with the babies on it?
No, because my flamethrowers are... Hold on, wait, no. It is not safe for that.
Sorry, I was screaming internally in my head.
I have my sword.
You need
Well,
about
I have
5,000
that.
more of them.
I have that.
Brian has
wanted
his welding mask.
That's right. I wanted to prepare a small video of just because we're having a bug-tastical show, and we're gonna get into that real quick. But I wanted to prepare just like a small 30-second vignette of just nothing but nasty bugs and stuff. But
Boy,
I
I'm
didn't have a
glad
chance
you
to
did
do
not
that.
have time for that.
I'll get
I'm
you.
for one, I'm a little disappointed that you didn't, but
Oh, who is that? Oh, wait a minute. First, let's
Don't
get on
jump
to
the
Brian.
gun.
I always do this. I jump the gun. Sorry, Brian.
All right. And no Allegra tonight. She is busy costuming, doing her little side business. But joining us, our news anchor and man of the deep voice, Brian O'Vera.
Sorry, I'm still recovering from the spider mental image right now.
And Brian promises us some interesting news this evening, right, Brian?
I'm working on it. Don't worry. I got you back. I got you.
Hey, you got that one special that I asked for?
I got it.
All right, awesome. Good. All right, so joining us tonight, our guests are Joe Ballenger. I think I got that one right.
Yep.
And Doug, and here we go. Time to drink.
Ready.
Yanega?
Yanega.
Yanega. Okay. Yeah, it's a game. I generally tend to try and I try to get them right, but I generally screw them up.
And we tend to get drunk by the end of the show, so everybody wins.
so that's not coffee you're drinking.
Oh no, I am drinking coffee. I didn't have any. I did not have any alcohol this evening. I'm a little jealous of Mike because he actually has something to drink, and
I'm imbibing on
It is what
a
it
peach
is.
brandy with a cream soda. It's
highly
nice. Recommended.
Oh,
Sounds very nice. I actually have a vanilla bourbon to my left a little bit, so
right. Oh, awesome.
yeah, we're gonna class it up.
So Joe
Um,
Joe and Doug are entomologists, but I'll let them talk a little more about who they are and what they know and how they know what they know. So Joe, if you could start off and introduce yourself and what your specialty is and why we've invited you on the show.
Okay. So my name is Joe Ballenger. I'm a professional entomologist, and I run a blog called Ask an Entomologist, where it's basically exactly what it sounds like. People just email us questions, and we answer them. In terms of education, I have a master's in entomology, which is the step below a PhD, my specialty is host-parasite interactions. I'm a molecular biologist. I study kind of the nuts and the bolts of biology. In terms of day job, this is kind of a full disclosure thing. I work for a agricultural company called Monsanto as a contractor, which means that I'm a very low position. I'm not doing this on behalf of them. Everything I say during this podcast and everything I write for Ask an Entomologist, those are my opinions, and they might not necessarily reflect the opinions of anybody I'm familiar with. On Ask an Entomologist, I have a co-blogger who really who writes her own stuff. She answers a lot of questions and does a lot of the artwork for the site. Nancy Miarelli, she could not make it tonight, unfortunately. So in lieu of her, I invited another one of my professional contacts, Doug, to help out with this podcast. So Doug, if you want to take it away.
Sure. I'm Doug Yanega. I'm the senior museum scientist at UC Riverside. And again, like Joe, I'm not representing my employer here, but this is, the topic and everything with things right up my alley. My degree, I have a PhD, and it was in bee natural history and biology, but it was native bees, not honeybees specifically, although I know plenty about those. And so, the topic that people wanted to discuss today was right up my alley because I happen to have a lot of background in that particular area, and especially when it deals with like pollination ecology and that sort of thing. So this is the kind of thing that we do for public outreach. We want to educate people, and it seemed like a good chance to get the word out about some of the things that might be confusing people or, just throwing people off their balance when you hear some of this stuff that you get out of the media.
Joe said you were pretty bee sharp, so.
Yeah,
so
I had to get that one out of the way. They'll be as we go on.
That's probably not going to be the worst pun made tonight.
I invited these two guys to come on because Mike and I were talking. We like to have scientists on the show, and one of my pet things, one of the things that I have taken an interest in science, amongst many of them, but one of them is the colony collapse disorder and how complex it is, and how important it is to our agriculture. The foods we eat, and it could have very serious impacts. But as with anything like that, it's been very sensationalized, and there's been a lot of media information out there, which I'm not going to say is incorrect, but a lot of it is. A lot of it's misunderstood. The media is terrible at reporting science. Because science, good hardcore science generally does not make for good ratings. Hopefully on this show it does, because we have a smart audience. But I wanted to bring these guys on because one of the things that I did in college, I was taking a science writing course, and one of the articles I wrote was on colony collapse disorder, but that was like 4 years ago, and I know the science has changed. They've learned more things since then. And I remember when I was learning about it, it was so complex that I was overwhelmed with how many variables there are and how many things there are to know about this. And I see a lot of stuff on Facebook and on the internet of people going off on one particular thing and saying, "Oh, it's this," or "Oh, it's that," and it's like, I don't think you guys fully understand all of this. So kind of hoping to do that outreach and help people understand a little bit more about what's really going on, what we know and what we don't know, and where we are currently with the science on that. So if you guys, either one of you want to start off, I would say the first thing, and I know this, I apologize, this wasn't in my questions, but this just real quick, what is colony collapse disorder, and when did we notice it first?
Well, I can feel that one because this is something that this is one of the fundamental things that people have gotten wrong, and that it doesn't mean just the media. It includes a lot of the scientists, because one of the things you're supposed to do as a scientist is you sort of do your homework. That's basic science. But the first paper that came out talking about colony collapse disorder, it was I think it was December of 2006 when this paper came out, and in this paper a whole group of scientists, they were investigating the latest outbreak of a known bee ailment, and it had gone previous to that by multiple different names, such as fall dwindle disease, and they said, we don't like these old names because they imply it's a disease, and they wanted a more generic name to avoid implying that people knew that it was, that it was caused as a disease. And this original paper stated up front that it was an ailment that had been known for decades, and they felt that it just needed a new name. But
okay.
that point has almost been completely ignored by both the press and the scientific community since that original paper. I mean, you can find scientific studies that claim CCD is a new ailment that first appeared in 2006, but that's not true. The original scientists who described the syndrome, when they coined the name, they wrote that they believed it dated back to at least the 1960s and 70s, if not all the way back to the 1800s. And I mean,
wait a minute, before cell phone towers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Before cell phone towers, GMOs, and pesticides.
Right, all that stuff. And it affects almost every aspect of the discussion about CCD because when they coined the term, they said, we think this is a disease that's been around for over 100 years, and that rules out, at least in terms of the original symptomology, it rules out a lot of the stuff that people have been throwing around as their pet hypotheses.
All right, awesome.
And
Okay, I didn't even know that.
So one other thing.
It's in Wikipedia.
Okay.
It actually is in Wikipedia, and the citation is there, and nobody even looks it up.
It's
Wow.
gotta be true if it's in
It's
Wikipedia.
the number one hit. If you Google colony collapse disorder, the number one hit is the Wikipedia page. It has that information on it, and nobody bothers to do it.
Wow. Okay.
And
All right.
one of the first papers that was one of the first scientific papers that was published, they actually say that descriptions of similar diseases go all the way back to the 900s, not the 1900s, but the 900s. But they said that they didn't know. They said that they didn't know if it was the same thing or not. And, there's really no way to tell.
That's a lot of the same symptoms.
Yeah. So another thing I think is really important to mention is that native bees as a group aren't doing too well right now either, and the reasons for that are they're very different than the honeybees. So a lot of people write about honeybees as if they're native animals, and in reality they're about as native as dogs and cats.
Right.
We've been beekeeping for about 6,000 years, and bees have a much higher, have more generations per unit time than dogs and cats. So technically they've been domesticated longer than dogs and cats if, we're using generations as a measure. And you can go out and find honeybees in the environment. The European honeybee, Apis mellifera, which is the species of bee most commonly kept by people. But in reality, it's no different than going out into, St. Louis, which is where I'm living right now, and finding a dog or a cat and, writing about it as if it's a wild animal.
Okay.
So,
yeah. They're an invasive species. Speaking as an ecologist,
Right.
for them to be present in the U.S., I mean, they're disruptive to the native ecosystems. Outside of the agricultural context, they don't belong there. So, a reduction in their numbers outside of agriculture would actually be beneficial to our native ecosystems and the ecosystem health, and give an opportunity for the native pollinators to rebound. But that's out of the agricultural context. In an agricultural context, they're really, really important, and we're not trying to say that they're not important or they have no value in that sense. It's just you have to be very context specific about that.
Right. You got to put it all in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you bring in a species that hasn't evolved in its ecosystem, I mean that colors the conversation completely, because if they don't do well here, it may just be a fact of the matter that they don't. I mean, to say they don't belong here, but they kind of don't. They
Right.
did not evolve here with. It's kind of like those giant Japanese hornets. They can wipe out American honeybees, but the Japanese honeybees have a defense against them.
Yep.
And the European honeybees have no defense. Those Japanese hornets come in, they wipe them out. It's actually kind of disturbing watching that. But
it's really interesting.
yeah, it was. It was cool. It's cool watching the Japanese bees go at them. But I don't want to digress. So, so you're saying that the colony collapse disorder is, well, let's what is it exactly? I mean, what is that? You know, we're calling it that now.
Right.
So, what would, if I went and saw, you know, witnessed these bees suffering this condition, what would I see? How would I be able to say that's CCD?
Well, from the original definition, all right, we'll use the original definition here. That had to do with the almost complete disappearance of all the adult workers in the hive. And there were 3 things that went along with the disappearance of the workers that defined that this was CCD and not something else. So number 1 was that there were capped brood and significant supplies of honey and pollen. And the reason that that was important is because if you've got larvae and honey and pollen, that means that it wasn't the bees just picking up and leaving the nest, because they wouldn't do that and leave the larvae and the pollen and everything behind. That means the bees died inside and they didn't abandon the nest. The second thing is that there would be no piles of dead bees near the hive, as might be the case with some sort of normal acute disease, you know, some of the other things that are known. The fact is that the bees are gone and there aren't even any little corpses, so they're dying away from the hive, which is different from most of the other types of bee diseases. And the third thing is that the queen would still be there. So you can't blame the colony death on the fact that it's queenless. So if any one of those 3 conditions is not met, it didn't meet the original definition of CCD. However, since then, some people have tried to refine the disease description and make it even a little bit more narrow, by like excluding varroa mites, and other people broadened it. So a lot of the folks who are talking about it now are actually just basically saying anything that makes the workers diminish in numbers is CCD. And so they're mixing, they're potentially mixing a whole bunch of different things that could be happening all together and just lumping them under the same name. It's like,
okay, so
it's like
we're
lumping
going
all
autism
forms of.
situation.
It's like calling everything that causes cancer cancer and not distinguishing between it.
Yeah, and to be fair, some of the scientists who have been doing this, who have been using the term in a non-specific context, have been people like I've seen Jeffrey Pettis and Dennis van Ingelsdorp use the term very loosely in kind of popular media presentations. And, you know, some of the big names are kind of contributing to this. I mean, they're doing great work, but, you know, it's they tend to play a little bit loose with definitions, which, you know, doesn't really help public understanding.
And it's funny. It's funny that they should do that, because they're among the people who coined the original definition, and so they've just sort of like gone with the flow, because they just gave up trying to resist and trying to keep people educated, and so they're just like, all right, whatever.
But no, that's critical.
At least it comes across that way.
Yeah, and it's also, I think it's also important to note that behind the scenes, you know, some of these people are, even though in the popular eye they're not using terms as precisely as they should be, they're still doing really good work, like behind the scenes, and I think that's, you know, what matters.
But you know, this does lead to a problem, though, and a little bit of the hysteria that goes on, and some of the sensationalism is that when you broaden the definition of something, or you broaden the things that fit within it, you create an epidemic that isn't an epidemic. So, for example, much like autism, you know, people are talking about, this epidemic of autism. It's like, well, the numbers haven't really been increasing as much as you would think, because they've broadened the definition of what autism is. It's not that there are more people; it's that more people are fitting within the criteria. So when you widen the goalposts, you know, everyone can make a goal, and it seems like it's getting worse, and that you know, there's this crazy, ridiculous epidemic going on. But it's really just a change in definition, and everybody needs to, as they put on Saturday Night Live, need to simmer down a little, you know, because it's too much, you know.
Well, I'm not really. This might be a better question for Doug, but you know, I'm not really sure that when they diagnose that, you know, when some of these scientists diagnose CCD, that they're using a loose definition, because they've said that CCD. So normally, you know, at the height of the epidemic, CCD accounted for 1/3 of all bee deaths, and bees can die for a number of reasons. You know, they can get diseases, they can get parasites, you know. it's tough for a bee out there, and there's a lot of different reasons bee colonies die. It's not just CCD. And if you listed out all the reasons of why bee colonies die, CCD would be about a third of them. And it's been shrinking the past few years. And my understanding, and Doug, correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that they haven't really seen a significant number of cases of CCD in the past few years, at least not as much as they were seeing back in the kind of early days when this whole public outcry thing started.
Right, that's true.
Okay, good. Well,
it's a downward trend, but I mean, it was. See, that's one of the things that seemed to be the same way in the 1960s and the 1970s. Right. There'd be this massive outbreak, lots of bee deaths. Back then, there was no media coverage or anything, so it was, you know, an obscure set of things, and it was mostly known among beekeepers, and we didn't have quite the really large-scale commercial operations with the, you know, migratory beekeeping and stuff back in those decades, and so the impact back then wasn't like broadcast to the entire American public, so people weren't like just, you know, consciously aware that this was going on. They had other things on their mind, like, you know, people landing on the moon and stuff like that. They weren't worried about what the honeybees were doing. Now it's a big news story, and so it's getting attention that it didn't get in those past decades. And, you know, this is one reason why we're not sure that it's the same thing, because it wasn't really well studied back then, because it wasn't a high social priority. Now that equation has changed. So as far as we can tell, all those past outbreaks, they were really bad for a couple of years, and then they slowly went away. And it sort of looks like the same thing's happening right now. Back then, you know, it went away without anybody ever figuring out what had happened, and it's sort of looking like it may go away this time, and without us really getting a good, solid grasp on what it was that took place. So
yeah, but at least we'll have a lot of data in case it strikes up again. You know, we can go back to the data that we have now and say, all right, we're not starting from scratch all over again. So what you said that, you know, we have the European honeybees, and then we have our natural pollinators, which I'm sure is a variety of bees, of native bees.
Oh yeah.
But what bees are really being affected by CCD? Is it most of the European honeybee, or is it just across the spectrum?
No, it's just that one species.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's the only one. Not even the other species of honeybees. You know, the Japanese honeybee and those, they're not being affected by it.
That is interesting, because I didn't know that it was to that effect. That was that. Wow. Okay.
Well, part of it is because of social structure. So, you know, if you have a bunch of, so let's say that CCD is something that's transmissible just for, you know, the sake of something. I'm not really saying that, but if you were to, you know, take a bee virus and put it in another bee, it might act completely differently. So a big part of the reason why CCD is, you know, confined to the European honeybee is because European honeybees exhibit a very specific behavior that results in CCD.
I see.
It's an aspect of their biology and how they react to infection and stress and stuff like that.
So you're talking like a predictive behavior. You could say, oh, we're seeing this, we can anticipate a CCD.
Yeah. Well, no, it's more the fact that they live in very large colonies, and when they get really sick, they tend to everybody just gets bumped up one. So the adults go through this phase where they start out as nurse bees and take care of the young, and then they start cleaning the colony, and then they start foraging, and then they start guarding. But when they get sick, what happens is the oldest bees abandon the hive, and the ones who are foraging start, you know, acting as guards, and the younger bees start having to forage because, you know, those older bees are either not doing their jobs properly or are just kind of gone, and that puts the colony under additional stress. And to my knowledge, I think that they're the only they're either the only bees where this has been documented, or they're the best characterized.
Okay.
Because that's something that's really common in social insects. Something similar happens with ants, but I don't know if it's been documented in any other bees.
Right.
Okay.
It's very similar, and like you were mentioning the Japanese honeybee, their biology is really, really similar. They have almost identical nesting biology and stuff, and it's interesting that they don't show the same disease patterns because they're a very closely related species, and yet it sort of looks like it's one of the main possible culprits behind CCD is this fungus that attacks the Japanese bees but doesn't kill them. Whereas, if you know anything about pathogenicity, it tends to be things that are, transmitted from one species to a closely related species that hasn't had that pathogen. And so it might be that that's one of the things that's contributing to CCD. There's this fungus called Nosema cerani, which attacks Apis cerana, the Japanese honeybee, and that's been getting into the Apis mellifera, and it has a stronger effect on them than it does on the bee that it's co-evolved with. And that's one of the things that we're dealing with. We're saying that CCD only affects mellifera, but it could be that if there are pathogens involved, they could be coming from one of the other honeybee species. And so they're not harmful to the honeybee species for which that disease has been there for millions of years. It's a new introduction to the European honeybee and causing problems there.
So the Nosema, okay, we're jumping ahead just a little bit. That's fine. I'll come back and hit the other ones. So Nosema, that is it's a parasite, right? That has been. I was just reading quickly about it, and it said something about it had been recently categorized as a bacteria, but it wasn't before. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a really confusing organism, and to say the least, like. Science is full of stories where people saw something and thought it was one thing, and then it gets recategorized because we get better tools. But what it does is it has this kind of needle that it starts off life as kind of a balloon and a needle, and that needle, when it encounters a host cell, it injects the cytoplasm of a cell into a host cell, and then the nosema just kind of takes over the host cell and then bursts almost like a virus. But it's very clearly a cell. It has a nucleus and all the sort of thing that you would expect from a cell, and it just happens to be a fungus that evolved this really weird, complicated life cycle.
Wow. Okay, so it's a bacteria that's acting kind of like a virus.
It's a fungus that acts like a virus.
It's more like a yeast than anything else. If you think about yeast, that's a one-celled fungus, but this is like a parasitic yeast. So
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yummy.
Wow, a parasitic yeast.
Oh God! All right. Oh, yeah. Well, good thing we don't get that, right?
Yep.
Actually, there are microsporidians that infect humans, just not.
Wait a minute. La 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 la.
Not no
I want to sleep tonight.
A parasitic yeast infection. Yummy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So moving along. What other? All right. So I'm gonna go back just a little bit. What other pollinators are out there? Because a lot of people think, they think of the bee as the pollinator, but there are a lot of insects and well, not just insects, there are mammals that pollinate as well. What good examples of some other somewhat prolific pollinators do we have?
Well, you've got 20,000 other bee species, so most of the pollinators are bees. It's just that Apis mellifera is just one species out of 20,000, and a lot of those species are native. From where I am in California, we have within a 100-mile radius of where I'm sitting right now, there's 500 native bee species that pollinate all of the native plants, and honeybees are not part of that ecosystem, or at least they weren't until people introduced them here. But I mean, you've got large numbers of wasps. After the wasps, you'd get a large number of flies. Then there's beetles, and there's birds and bats and moths, and there's a whole range of these things. And unfortunately for the PR value, butterflies are sort of at the bottom of that list, although people tend to make a big deal about the butterflies as pollinators. In terms of actually carrying pollen from flower to flower and fertilizing the plants, butterflies are sort of at the bottom of the list of pollinators. And it's also going to depend on which crops you're talking about. Certain crops are exclusively pollinated by one sort of insect or another. Fig wasps are the only things that pollinate figs. Carrots are pollinated by flies. Chocolate is pollinated by midges. There's different things like that. So there's
Neat.
lots of
One thing-
I never would have thought about chocolate being pollinated.
By what? What is it pollinated by again?
midges, the little tiny flies.
Okay.
We actually have a post about it on Ask an Entomologist that we can send you later. But they're flies that feed on either mammal blood or insect blood, depending on the species. It's a really fascinating biology.
So blood for chocolate.
Pretty much, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's wouldn't go too well on a protest sign, but So one other thing that I wanted to mention, there's this idea that if the honeybee goes extinct, that humans will as well, and that's not necessarily true. So speaking as an agronomist, I don't want to. Whenever I tell people this, it always comes off as, for whatever reason, as me saying that bees aren't important, and that's not what I'm saying. But worldwide, most of the calories come from crops like corn or wheat, which are pollinated by wind, or potatoes or cassava, which are vegetatively reproduced. So
I was going to say they're
depending
pollinated by Irish people, but full disclaimer, I'm half Irish. I can say that.
Fair enough. So, if the bees were to, go extinct for whatever reason, if the honeybee was to go extinct for whatever reason, people would not starve. However, there would be like widespread vitamin deficiencies because a lot of the crops that are pollinated by bees are where we get a lot of our actual nutrition from. So it would cause problems in a lot of other ways, but humans would kind of eke on without the bees, and I want to make it apparent that I'm using the word just kind of eke on very specifically. It wouldn't be a good life, but we would survive.
So hold on, wait a minute. But we've got, you said that we've got like 500 other types of bees just within 100 miles of you, Doug.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't they pick up the pace on that? Why wouldn't the natural bee, like your native bees, pick up the pace?
Well, there's two reasons. Number one is that a lot of the native bees are sort of specialized for what plants they'll go to, like the California almond crop. The native bees don't go to those. You have to have the honeybees.
Man, not my yob.
Right.
Oh God.
So that's one thing. I mean, most bees have certain preferences, and there are certain plants that they won't go to. And the other thing, and this is like the major economic problem, is that the native bees, most of them nest in the ground, and they can't be raised in very large numbers. And so you could still have, crop X, Y, and Z, but the production of that crop would be 1,000 times less than what it is now. When you have, a couple of million honeybees out there in your field. You couldn't have these gargantuan farms that have, 3,000 acres of monoculture of one thing. You'd be down to the small subsistence farming kind of production for those crops. So we would still have almost all the same plants out there, and they'd still be getting pollinated. They just wouldn't be commercially viable anymore. So a lot of people would lose those plants, those crops, those fruits, those vegetables wouldn't be a part of their diet because we couldn't produce them in big enough numbers unless we were able to come up with some technology fix for raising the native bees in large numbers, but that's not really very likely for most of those. Okay.
All right. Hey, maybe we could.
It's also important to mention that there's a lot of plants that do depend on a diversity of pollinators. That you get a certain amount of pollination with honeybees, but when other bees are added to the mix, the production of those crops increases as well. So that gets into a whole other level of complication, though. So
it's not a simple solution.
It's really not.
like everything in science, nothing's easy. All right, so we've hit on most of these points. One of the things that that this brings up is Now I use the term natural capital, which I think is the term that is used for the capital that companies get free from nature for the most part. So like a river is natural capital, and you know, pollinators. I know that there are the bee breeders that invest in bees, but what is sort of the capital? What would be like the capital loss if we lost honeybees?
Billions.
Billions, right?
I was talking with Doug about this the other day, and what is it, Doug? Like 4 billion or something like that?
Right.
Worldwide.
And that's the agricultural capital. It's not, you're talking about natural capital and agricultural capital. They're different things.
Gotcha. Okay.
Ecosystems, except in the few places where the honeybees are native, that would have a significant impact. But like this whole hemisphere, the U.S., Latin America, South America, you could wipe out every honeybee from those 3 places, and you wouldn't affect much of the native ecosystem at all. So that particular capital would actually do better off.
Okay.
But
right.
in terms of agriculture, that's $4 billion worth of worldwide. That's a big amount of money there. So that's, you know, we're not talking about chump change if you had a serious problem.
And those are people's livelihoods too, by the way. You know,
Yeah.
we're not
sure,
talking about, you know, if I think that, you know, the human aspect of it should definitely be focused on. You know, it's one of those things where we can talk about it in dollar amounts, but $4 billion, that's a lot of, you know, that's a lot of people's lives on the line too.
Sure, yeah, that's people feeding their kids and stuff.
Yeah.
Hey,
I mean,
Pete,
whoa, wow, it's a double whammy. What's up?
Real quick, since I'm afraid to pull up the our actual live feed on YouTube. Can you, or is someone monitoring the chat room in case anyone has questions?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
No
I got it. Yeah, we don't have very many watchers. I'm kind of surprised with a lot of tweets and stuff that went out. But you know, people will watch this in the reruns and stuff.
Yeah. Well, you know, they're always welcome to submit a question to us too. So.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So,
wait, real quick before we go on, give us the location for Ask an Entomologist. What is the website?
It's askentomologist.wordpress.com.
Okay.
okay.
And that'll be at the bottom of the.
Yeah, that'll be in the
just
notes.
while somebody's listening, if they had a real, you know, bee in their bonnet, see what I mean? And wanted to go on and ask a question, they could.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so let's get into some of these other things that I've seen bandied about on the internet, on the internets, on the wisdom of the internet. So cell towers have taken the heat from this, and we already know, we've already discussed how this has been around longer, for the most part, than that.
Yeah.
But just tell me, what do we know about? I mean, there had to have been somebody looking into this some, and just tell me what do they know about the effects of cell towers?
Basically, as if you're not calling a cell phone inside of a beehive, it's not a big issue. So there was one paper out there that they did do that, and it's kind of one of those papers that I think should be a case study in what not to do when performing research.
Right.
Yeah, even the original researchers wound up disclaiming that entire study when the reporters got to them. It's like, well, yeah, that wasn't intended to be a formal publication. We had a sample size of 1.
Right.
You know, and we placed a cell emitter inside the colony. I mean, you know, if cell phone towers, the power drops off exponentially with distance from the actual source. So unless you have your beehive up on the top of the tower right next to the emitter, it's not going to have any significant biological effect. I mean, that one was one of the easiest ones to rule out.
And that's that's one of those things where it's not just bad information, or it's not just inaccurate. It's kind of dangerous, because when that gets out and people read it and they jump to conclusions, and they start next thing you know, they're standing out by cell towers with picket signs, and it's just like this study was actually causing more issues than actually exist.
Yep.
If it was so bad at the cell tower, why are they picketing right under the cell tower?
All right, so then we already talked about Nosema, and there's another one. A lot of people don't know about this, and this one I haven't seen a whole lot of people actually even talk about. But it's something that's kind of important, and it's something I want to bring up with you guys. So there's two viruses. There's this deformed wing virus and this acute paralysis virus. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, there's a third one too, this Israeli acute paralysis virus, which that last one's the one I kind of wanted to ask about. I seem to remember when I was doing my research before that was a virus that they were kind of keeping in check by banning bees from, was it Australia? And then once they opened up the trade with Australia again, with the Australian breeders, it reintroduced this virus, but I'm not totally sure on that. It's been a while since I've read that. So could you talk a little bit about the viruses that affect bees?
That particular case, the Australian bee breeders eventually got around to testing like the genetic strains of the virus, and they seemed to come up with fairly good evidence that it had not been like their bees that were responsible. But it was also it was one of the IAPV, that particular virus was considered a big candidate right at that point in time because it had some of the same symptoms about the bees would die. They'd fly away from the hive and then they'd get acute paralysis, thus the name, and they'd just not fly back to the hive. And so it had a lot of the same symptoms, and so they were thinking, oh, well, maybe that's what CCD is. It's just another outbreak of this virus or a variant of it. And it's hard to tell because, we've gotten so many things mixed in with this that it's, teasing it all apart is difficult. There are certainly some viruses that are strongly associated with CCD, and they're definitely, important candidates for causative agents, but there is not as much research being focused on that sort of thing as you might hope. It's sort of been swallowed up in this little groundswell of pesticide investigations, things like that.
The research that needs to be happening with viruses, I'll just say it as bluntly as I can. It's nowhere near where it needs to be.
Yeah.
It's not that there's not as much of it as you would hope. It's just, at least as far as in certain areas, like, for example, with native bees and honeybee pathogen crosstalk, basically we know that some of these viruses get into native bees, but we don't know what symptoms they cause. We don't know, we don't know how widespread they are or anything like that. We just know that they're there, and we know that some of them appear to cause symptoms. And it's as far as the bee viruses go, it's a very difficult thing. It's a very difficult thing to study and to control. So first off, if you want to study the effects of viruses on bees, you need a virus-free bee line. But there are no bees that are virus-free. It's very difficult to do.
Dirty bees.
Yeah. So the other thing about bee health, if you kind of, besides like proper nutrition and stress relief and all that, if you kind of zoom out and look at veterinary care for all mammals is basically the same. You vaccinate to prevent illness, and once you get sick, you treat with a medication, like an antibiotic if it's a bacterial infection. So one of the things that beekeepers are coming up against is that bees don't produce antibodies. They're completely different than any other form of livestock that's kept on the market, and sheep and pigs benefit from human medicine because a lot of the same approaches are used to keep them from getting sick or to treat them, and you can't really do that with bees. So the number of miticides that are out there are limited, and the combating viruses is really a no-go, since you can't vaccinate them like you can cows or pigs or chickens and stuff like that. So that's there's a lot of research in that area that needs to happen, but it just hasn't happened yet.
And you speak of the mites. So there's the Varroa mite, right?
Yep, the Varroa mite.
Or Varroa.
So these are mites that they're very closely related to ticks, and if a bee was the size of a human, these tick-like mites would be the size of Captain America's shield. So if you want to use that as a perspective, I mean, these are
Oh,
not.
there goes sleep. No.
Yeah. So these are not small mites in relation to the bees, and what they do is they feed on the bee blood, and in that process, not only do they physically damage the bees, they
yeah, the thing is huge.
yeah, they they
mighty
also
mite.
trans-
Dog. That's like
They
you laying there
also-
asleep and a dog crawling in and just latching onto your side.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Like a corgi. It's like a corgi-sized tick, but not nearly as adorable.
God.
Sweet dreams tonight, guys.
Yeah, right.
Um, But in
Lord,
addition
Brandy.
to causing really big wounds, they also transmit viruses. And right now, you know, you hear a lot about pesticides, but right now the biggest threat to beekeepers is actually the Varroa mite. Despite the fact that they've been battling this thing for 20 years, there's a lot of beekeepers who don't control mites as they should. There's also a lot of resistance issues to existing pesticides that makes it very difficult to manage.
Ugh. So is that mite? Is it in the tick family? Is it an arachnid?
Yeah, they're
Oh.
arachnids.
They're
of course they
arachnids,
course
but
they are.
they're very distantly related to ticks. They're in the I think they're in the same suborder as ticks.
Acari, yes.
So they're parasitiforms though. What's the parasitiform? Is that Doug?
Yeah,
What
they're
classific-
call them cousins.
Cousin.
Yeah.
Oh, kissing
Cousins.
cousins, biting cousins. So, all right. So we got. I want to make sure we hit our time frame. So there's a couple more things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So there's because it's going to be a little bit of a talk here. We're moving on to the neonicotinoids. There has been oh my God, it is so hard to parse out good information about this because the web is just jammed. I mean, it's like a big pile of to keep it safe for work. It's like a big pile of poopy on the internet trying to get good information about this.
So to be fair, when I first started learning about CCD, I honestly did think it was the pesticides. But then I actually did some, then a couple papers came out, one in 2010, which basically said that these pesticides show up in less than 5% of bee colonies. And the amounts that they show up in are less than what seems to cause damage in field-relevant situations. So, they're basically what a lot of these people who try to claim that it's pesticides are trying to say is that pesticides that show up in 2 to 5% of honeybee colonies are causing the deaths of 30% of the bee colonies, and that doesn't square. That doesn't make much sense.
Yeah,
And
but
you've-
that's what big pesticide wants you to think.
That's some bad arithmetic there.
And then you
Pretty
got
much.
you got the basic issue there about you're dealing with this pesticide thing, and there's nobody, and nobody's going to say pesticides don't kill bees. Of course pesticides kill bees. If you apply a pesticide to a bee, it's going to die. The point is that they're saying that this is CCD, and CCD has a completely different set of symptoms and a different set of explanations.
In
There's
fact,
nobody's saying that pesticides are good for bees. We're just saying that they don't necessarily cause CCD. They kill bees in other ways, and that's.
But it's also it falls under that same thing. It's not what you intake; it's the amount you intake. Because everything at a high enough level will kill you. The solution to pollution is dilution, right?
Mhm.
Well,
So
it's not only that; it's also entomology. So Chen-Sheng Liu, who is one of the people who keeps putting out these bee neonicotinoid papers, and if you take the symptoms of CCD and compare them with the symptoms that he says that he gives in his paper, they don't match up.
Right.
And in the Chen-Sheng Liu research, and one of the constants in his papers is that the queens all seem to end up dying, and he shows these pictures of frames in his papers, and there's no brood on there. And I think that in one paper he might have even mistaken honey frames for capped brood.
Okay.
And it's so there's, and that's a very dishonest thing to put out there in the literature. And granted, he's not an entomologist, but he still should know better. And I can safely say that without a fear of a libel lawsuit, because in his first paper, what happened was he started out with a low dose, and he didn't see any effects. And then, without any sort of explanation, any sort of justification in his paper, he raised it to a dose that's about 30 times higher than what the bees would encounter in the wild to get the symptoms that he thought that he should be seeing. And at the end of the paper, he claimed that he replicated CCD, but the symptoms didn't match what's actually the definition of CCD.
So the paper should have read, well, I didn't get what I wanted, so I hosed them down with pesticides, and lo and behold, I was correct.
Yeah, except he really wasn't. And the team that has been doing a lot of the pesticide research, the team led by Jeffrey Pettis, recently put out a paper, and I think it was within the last week or two. And if you read through, one, they say that neonics don't, they cause some troubles overwintering, but it's not really very extreme effects. Mm-hmm. And if you actually read through the introduction, he says 3 times in 3 separate ways that that there's no evidence that neonicotinoids are connected to CCD. And that's something I feel is very major for a paper to say, that many times in one section of the paper, that there's just no evidence.
And that's the cutting edge from one of the foremost groups working on this problem. So that's a pretty definitive statement.
And as I said at the beginning of the thing, I do work for industry. So if I were citing something that Bayer or Syngenta or something like that put out, I would, that's fair enough to, say that there's a conflict of interest there. But this was not an industry-funded paper. This is from the USDA.
Right, okay. So
this is about as independent as you can get. And when writing about this topic online, I tend to cite papers from independent researchers like that. I mean, that's what the independent people are saying.
Oh, check this out! Hey, I don't mean to interrupt, but real quick, yeah. David, one of the guys watching.
Hey, Dave.
He says, well, good news. If you Google CCD neonicotinoids, Joe's page comes up first.
Awesome.
That's good news. That's actually really good news. And he says, so is it safe for me to buy seedless grapes? What the hell is he talking about, Dave? What are you talking about?
That gets into the issue of food and pesticides, and that's another monster altogether.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about bees. So,
yeah.
So all right.
Tell him to submit a question to the Ask an Entomologist blog through the email, and I'll email him back.
Cool, you just did.
Yeah.
So
we're sticking to Plan A. He just went to Plan B.
Right, I got you. Okay.
We're on Plan B. He went to Plan A.
So
I don't know.
So let's hit the next the gigantic big fat elephant in the room.
Oh, God. Here we go.
This is the one. This is the one that
we were doing so well, Pete. Why are you messing it up? We're having a good time.
We have to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
So what do we know about BT, genetically modified crops, and their contribution to CCD? Because that is another big pile of poopy that's hard to navigate through.
Dung.
Yeah. Well, so in terms of, I guess I'm the guy who should answer this question. So in terms of how these crops are made, each BT is a bacteria that lives in the soil. It causes a sort of food poisoning in insects, but it doesn't do that to humans for a variety of reasons. The pH in our stomach is different. The receptors are different. And by very carefully picking and choosing the toxins that get put into crops, you can make a very specific resistance. So, for example, the Cry3BB toxin only kills beetles, and that's a good thing for agriculture. It's a good thing for humans, and it's a good thing for bees because
Bad for beetles.
It's bad for corn rootworm. But corn rootworm used to be controlled with organophosphate insecticides, which are the worst kind of insecticides that are used in terms of human health, as well as pyrethroid insecticides as well. And the adoption of this particular thing has basically stopped us from dumping insecticides into the soil. It's completely changed how crops are managed, and it's done it for the better. And I would argue that the reduced insecticide sprays, the reduced pyrethroids and organophosphate insecticide sprays, that definitely benefits bees.
So hold on, wait a minute. So this BT toxin, not bad for us, not bad for bees, not so good for the things that eat the food, which keeps us from being able to, or keeps us from having to spray stuff that is bad for bees and bad for us on the food, right? And people are complaining about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, wait,
I
got another question. Along with that, you were talking the BT toxin. That it's very similar to like borax and stuff, right? I mean, it's another type of chemical that bad for insects, but we can eat it, and it's just like
it's
salt.
not. It's not. So it's not like borax. It's a protein. So proteins are kind of the workhorses of the cell, and what it is it's a protein. So your stomach pH right now is a pH of 2, which is like lemon juice.
Mm-hmm.
A caterpillar's stomach is a pH of like 10, and I think a beetle's stomach is probably 7 or something like that. But their stomachs are just a lot more basic than ours, and that environment renders the protein inactive. In addition to that, they need specific protein-cutting enzymes, specific places to lodge themselves on the cell wall, stuff that just doesn't really exist in human cells. So conditions that just don't exist in the human gut. So it's a very specific insecticide, and what these companies that produce these crops are able to do is they're able to choose proteins that will kill one narrow group of insects while leaving the others well alone. And that's kind of the goal for that. To if you imagine if you're playing a game like Call of Duty, there's always that guy who always runs around the map with a shotgun.
Right.
Yeah,
We're
taking
basically
everybody out.
yeah. So those are the old school pesticides, the ones that just kill everything in the room. And what those BT toxin insertions are trying to do is we're trying to replace that guy with a dude carrying a sniper rifle, something that's a lot more specific and something that's going to cause a lot less collateral damage.
Okay. So why do you think? What do you think the reason is that people gravitate towards this this BTGM modification? Why are there's so much vitriol? Do you think? I mean, just your opinion.
I think that some have a business motive, namely the Organic Consumers Association. So I think that a lot of that does come from people who, my own personal opinion, remember.
Right, this is your opinion.
This is my opinion. I'm not speaking for anyone else other than me.
Right.
But I think that to a certain extent, some of these groups kind of see a system of agriculture that they would prefer being phased out for a number of reasons that I don't have time to get into right now because I want to keep talking about bees and stuff like that.
Sure.
I think that bees get lumped into this because it's very easy to say, well, this protein kills insects, therefore it must kill all insects, and that's just not true. That's not.
Right.
We're trying to get away from that, and I would argue, that the literature shows that, for the most part, these crops have been successful.
Cool.
And if I didn't feel that way, I wouldn't be working where I am.
Right.
And
Okay, so
as explanations go, it doesn't work either because it's not consistent with where and when we see CCD, neither historically nor in its present distribution. There's all sorts of case studies where there are bees dying from CCD in areas that have no GM crops, and the exact converse in places that are just packed to the gills with nothing but GM crops, and all their bees are perfectly healthy. So there's no smoking gun kind of evidence to link any of that GM stuff to what's been happening with those bees.
And this problem is
1,000 years ago, those crops just weren't around, and we still saw CCD.
Right, absolutely. Okay, cool. So we saw, we talked earlier that the numbers, the CCD is going down in frequency. Is there any result? Is there anything that we're doing that you think might be helping that come down? Because I remember, again, when I went back to my research, I was reading that some beekeepers were sterilizing the nest, like cleaning them out between seasons, and they said that seemed to help. Is that true, or is that just something that because that was very early evidence?
Yeah, that was very early evidence, and it was very telling because that's one of the things that suggested that there might be some sort of link to pathogens, some sort of bacteria or fungi or viruses. If you didn't sterilize the hive and you moved healthy bees in, they tended to get sick. Now that doesn't prove that that's what was making them sick, that they were picking up some particles that were infectious agents, but it certainly suggested it. And if the beekeepers changed their habits and got to use better sterile equipment, if they were more careful about putting their bees under stress, then if the stress and the pathogens were responsible for the disease, then they have been doing things that improve the bee health, even if they didn't know exactly what was going on, and that certainly could contribute to the slow rebound that we're seeing.
Oh, good. Okay, so is that more bee farmers? I guess is that the term, bee farmer? Are
beekeepers.
Beekeepers? Okay, keep it right. Yeah, keep it. Duh. Are more beekeepers doing that as a standard procedure?
I would hope so. I mean, this. In the face of an outbreak that threatens your livelihood, you might, I think a lot of the people tried to do things a little bit differently, figure out what they could, how they could adapt their techniques and, keep their bees a little bit healthier. And I think that's just generally good practice.
Awesome.
Guys, I'm sorry. I just got a message. I got a tweet from PETA and the Humane Society, and they say that we're not allowed to call them beekeepers anymore. They are bee companions. Sorry.
Not in the firefly sense, I hope, because that might be a little.
The sojourner
painful.
Truth of the bee world.
That's right.
Yeah.
The beekeepers are not enslaving their bees. No.
Right.
Yeah. In terms of stuff that beekeepers are doing, the other thing is, I think I disagree with Doug a little bit because there's a pretty big there's a very wide variety of how people keep their bees, and I think that I would hope that beekeepers are changing their practices, but with something like this, I kind of wonder, how much. I haven't really seen any hard data on, how beekeepers have changed their practices in the last couple years, or if across the board things are largely the same. And honestly, to me, my gut feeling is that this is something that has just kind of started to peter out on its own. And this is based on some stuff that I've seen with beekeepers and just certain surveys that I've seen done where the average amount of mites in the bee colonies is higher than the number that causes damage to the bees, like observable economic damage. Right. And this, these have been fairly recent. So I kind of wonder, if if there's something that's been done to change what's happening, or if it's just something that's kind of happening on its own. And I personally think it's the second thing. I think it's something that's happening on its own.
Okay. All right then. Well, one last thing, one last question, and then we're pretty much on time. What do we do if we can't fix this? So I know you said before that we would be vitamin deficient and stuff, but is there anything we can do to, like, say our honeybee populations were dropped and we couldn't get them to recover well enough to get back to our agricultural levels that we're at now? Is there anything we can mitigate? I mean, I know there was, and this is not the answer, but I do know there was this one Japanese town that were actually, they had the people would go around and pollinate the pear trees because they had lost all the bees in their area. They'd hand pollinate them with these like sacks. But I know that's not reasonable. But is there anything else? I don't know. Is there any other solutions?
I think that short term, we need to hit this with pretty much everything we have. I don't think that there's going to be any one solution. I think that there needs to be a lot bigger and better bee breeding programs, and on the other, like, to breed for things like disease resistance and cleanliness and all that. And on the other end, we definitely need to replace a lot of these older miticides with stuff that's older and safer. Not that needs to be a main management tool, but it certainly needs to be an option for the beekeepers. A lot of beekeepers right now are just small mom and pop organizations, which, sounds very nice, but in reality what they do is they charge basically what they need to keep on going and very little more. So there needs to be an investment in research and development there as well.
And everybody, think of the bees. Imagine having a corgi hanging from your side, right? Imagine how terrifying that would be. Think of the poor bees.
They also, we also need to diversify. How did I phrase this? We need to diversify our pollinator portfolio. We need to figure out how to more efficiently raise some of these native bees and use them in agriculture, which is wildly impractical, but it still needs to be done. Doug, what are your thoughts on the?
It's going to change. It's going to change a lot of the economic balances. There is what's likely to happen. I mean, if we have a worst case scenario, if things really get bad, then that's where the problems are going to show up, and it's going to be, you're going to have to compensate in one way or another. Most of the things that Joe was suggesting just then are all good ideas. Breeding more resistant bees, figuring out other pollinators, stuff like that. It's just going to change the economics, though. It's going to make the cost of doing business for beekeepers and the pollinating services, it's going to make their costs go up because they're going to have a harder time making their ends meet. And when their costs go up, then the farmers' costs are going to go up, and they're going to be producing, less crops, having more cost to produce them. So when one crop becomes more expensive, then other crops might have to fill the gap, and so forth. There's going to be shifting and playing in the marketplace, and that's an inevitable thing when costs go up in one crop and not another. So there's no real predicting what's going to happen then.
And while we're on this topic, while we're in the same breath, there's another question I want to add in there, and how likely is that to happen? And the answer is not very likely.
Right.
That's good news.
Well, because what we're seeing right now is it's mostly a question of economics. The honeybee isn't really even close to dying out, and if things get really bad, then bees can be imported from Australia, which I don't think has varroa mite problems, at least not as much as America does.
Hold on, wait a minute. So Australia is the place where the bees are the safest? I mean, like, everything else is in danger there. Like, you go to Australia, and everything in that country wants to kill you, from the weather to the water to the... And that's the one place that the honeybees are safe, huh?
Well, they're not native. They're not native there either, and so they don't have a lot of the diseases and predators and stuff. And Australia has been pretty good about maintaining the hygiene and the quarantines and stuff like that, so they don't have quite the same problems. So bees are generally a little bit healthier, and the honey flow there is great for them. I mean, they get world record amounts of honey production. So,
and the interesting thing is, the mite that's causing a lot of these problems, it actually only started spreading in the 1980s. It's the varroa mite problem is, I think it's only slightly older than I am.
Wait a minute. So is that a local species of mite? Is that a native mite?
No, it
might be.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it originally infested the Japanese
That's
honeybees.
right. That's what I was saying about pathogenicity.
Nice.
The other honeybee strains have a better hygiene and they can control the mites on their own. The European honeybees don't know how to control them properly.
Totally right. That totally makes sense. Okay. Right. Okay. Wow. So they imported the honeybee here, and then the Japanese.
And it did fine for a few hundred years.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so it's a really amazing story about biogeography because they actually, in the literature, I think the mite was misidentified for about 10 years, and figuring this story out, where all this mite stuff came from. I think that's an interesting story in and of itself, one we don't really have time to get into.
In honeybee circles, they refer to them as the boogeyman. All right.
The most interesting mite in the world.
Right. All right. Well, we're on time on the interview. I'd like to thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Doug.
Sure.
We have the links. I'm going to ask you guys to stick around, of course, but we have the links. We have the links below. Ask entomologist.wordpress.com. You can also go to facebook.com/askentomologists. Twitter, it's bug questions. And Doug, do you have any link that you want to contribute to? You want people to go to?
I can be found on the internet. I have a unique name, so I'm easy to find, and I'm easy to find on Facebook and things like that. Different groups like Entomology, Bug Guide. I've got some presence, and I trust people to go to Wikipedia for answers to a lot of those questions because I keep an eye on a lot of those articles.
So Wikipedia is pretty accurate.
A lot of that stuff is, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
Mostly thanks to Doug, by the way. He's a very prolific Wikipedia editor.
And that's a whole other topic. We'll have to get into that some other time. I think Wikipedia is.
A couple other websites I wanted to mention. Just
sure. Go ahead.
Some other good conservation organizations / other great insect-related projects. If you're looking to donate money to help with insect conservation issues, specifically bees, there's an organization in the U.S. called Xerces, which is doing some really good work with habitat monitoring and restoration and trying to get bees back on track. And they have a UK counterpart that's independent of them that does basically the same thing called Bug Life. And there's a third, there's an Ecuadorian conservation agency that Nancy and I are involved with, more Nancy than me, called Maki Pukuna, which is currently trying to gear up to do some stuff with insects in agriculture. And Nancy's going to be down there for the next couple of years describing insects with them. Okay. Nothing agriculture related, but check them out because they're involved with us. And the final one, Insects Unlocked, which is a website that gives people free images of insects for people to use. For like blog posts and news articles and stuff like that, everything properly identified. They just started up, and even though they met their goal, they could still use donations because they're doing some really good work, and right now they're very limited in what they can do, even with the money that they've received. So those are some other good, other than our website, those are some other good places to check out. And also the Facebook entomology group that Nancy and I help moderate as well.
And hey, real quick, the Xerces, that's with the X?
Xerces.
CES, okay. because I'll find those and put those in the links as well.
Yeah.
You may
All right.
remember Xerxes from the Sparta movie.
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's the big dude.
No, he didn't get. He didn't get kicked down the hole, did he?
No,
that was his messenger.
No, he was the
messenger,
one
yeah.
who got the spear to the face.
Yes.
Yeah, it's different.
Oh, spoiler alert!
Oh, no, that's all right. That's if it's over. What is it? What's our limit on movies, Mike?
Yeah, like
Couple
2
months, 6 months.
I don't know. Couple of well, it depends on the movie. But it's, what?
I mean, 300 came out in what, 2005?
Yeah,
You're
it's
good.
expired.
You're good.
Okay,
All right.
good. Sorry, didn't mean to spoil it.
No problem. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming on, and stick around, and we're gonna do some stuff here. So, I would like you all to go. Mike, we're gonna run the movie first, real quick. All right. So,
Okay.
a buddy of mine, one of our other MythWits who contributes material from time to time, has done a movie review for us. So, if you guys could click on over on your left-hand side, you'll see a little red box with a white triangle in it. That's your YouTube app.
Okay.
If you can click on that, and it's going to probably ask you if you want to run it or whatever. Go ahead and say yes.
6, 11.
Let's see.
Do you see it?
Yes.
If you just mouse over all the way to the left, you'll see a red box with a white triangle in it.
Yeah, if I had to do some internet sorcery to get it to work. The video isn't up yet on my thing though.
It says Chef by MythWits.
Yep. All right. So, Mike, you're going to run this for us?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
why don't
you kinda have
be
to.
the? Huh?
All right. Okay.
It's not up on my screen.
It's not really.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, it's only about a minute long. You'll hear it.
Okay. All right.
So, all right, Mike, are we ready?
Yeah. It's on the stream. We're ready.
Okay. All right, ready to go. Here we go.
Professor J here from MythWits. This week's movie is all about cooking. Bacon. Yum. We're going to talk about the movie Chef. Now, if you ever wonder what the cast of Iron Man does when they're not making Iron Man movies, watch Chef. Jon Favreau stars as a famous chef working in a crappy restaurant. And then he finally finds his way. Robert Downey Jr. is in it. Scarlett Johansson's in it. Little cameos, but they're there. And John Leguizamo as Jon Favreau's best friend. This is one of those feel-good movies that if you have a son, or have sons, you should watch it with them. But be warned, they drop the pussy word 12 times in the film, which is where it gets its rated R rating from. I give Chef an A+ for film. Great movie, great storyline, a must-see film, great laughs. This is Jade for MythWits.
There we go. Sorry,
Alrighty.
my bad. All right.
So do they make shawarma?
What's that? They make sure. I don't know. It's actually real. I saw it. I loved it. I thought it was an awesome movie. But anyway,
And that's I have not seen that movie yet.
oh, you
Is that
should
the
watch
one-
it.
So,
Is that the one with Sofia Vergara in the food truck?
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's actually on my need to see list. I just
Oh, yeah, it's
around.
It is excellent. It is
So-
very, very good.
All right. So, Pete, did you want to jump into the game right now, or
Yeah,
while we're in
let's-
this transition, do you want to do a quick what you're geeking on, or?
I don't know. Let's do it.
Have a
Let's do it quick. Okay.
geek,
Let's do a quick
I'm
geeking on.
All right, I'll go first. So, I have notes. Wait a minute. So, as you know, Pete, I watched Interstellar, and I know I was a little late to the party on that, but it was fabulous. I really did enjoy it. It was amazing. It made me cry a lot, and made me really it was great. I don't know if
Had
you
all
guys.
the feels.
Yeah. Was a little long, but I tell you, it really it kept me into it. I liked the science of it and the the writing of it. Did anyone have any problems with it?
The whole love thing at the end was a little
Hokey.
Little hokey, but I think a lot of people mistake that they were saying that the movie was saying that love transcends time, but it wasn't the movie saying that. They never said that was the science of what was going on. That's what she said. That was her belief. So I'm kind of like giving them. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit. Maybe that's exactly what he was saying, but I don't think so. I think they were just. I think that was her theory, and I think I think him being. Oh, can we spoil this? Should we spoil it? No, I won't spoil it.
Take it from. Has everyone on the panel seen it?
Oh yeah,
I've seen it.
Okay.
Brian?
All right.
I'm trying to remember when it came out though. I saw it a good long while after it came out, so I think that it's.
All right. So look, this is what I'm going to say. If you don't want a spoiler, don't listen for the next 30 seconds. All right, give it about 30 seconds. So at the end when he's when he makes
Tesseract
he's
or whatever they're
Tesseract and he's interacting with his daughter and stuff, and a lot of people took that as, oh well, that was love connecting him to his daughter. It's like no, that was the future people connecting him with a point in time that he needed to be connected to. So I don't think it was hokey at all. I actually was fine with it.
Yeah. It's a little paradoxical. It's a little timey-wimey.
Yeah, it's a little timey-wimey, right?
I can
and a little non-scientific there.
Yeah, a little bit. Yes, that's the one place where the movie kind of falls apart. But let's be fair. We don't know what happens in a black hole, so it's the one place you can play around a little bit.
Right.
I mean, a little bit of freedom, right? I guess.
Freezing.
No?
Oh yeah, if they're taking artistic liberty.
You can take poetic license.
I'm quoting Archer.
Archer, right. Yeah. So you can play around in the black hole a little bit. Phrasing.
Alrighty. Also.
So by the way, this is the NSFW portion
of the show. Yay!
There you go.
The wheels are off.
Actually, what would be funny is if I revealed that this was moonshine the entire time.
Oh, nice.
It's not, but it would be funny.
God, I love me some moonshine. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, so the other movie, which ironically, according to our movie draft, which I know you guys don't know about, but we have a movie draft, and both movies were Interstellar was the first, and American Sniper was one of the last. And I watched American Sniper.
Oh yeah.
The other day too, and I was very shocked that it actually did as well as it did. It wasn't bad, but oh my god, it was like what was it? Almost a 3-hour movie or something, and it was just very long.
Okay.
Sometimes movies don't need to be that long.
You think it was a lot of like rah-rah jingoism, America?
I don't know. It was raw. I mean, there was a lot of raw parts to it, and it kept my interest, but I'm kind of like going, I could be doing something else right now, but I can't because I'm stuck watching this.
Worth
but
a
I
watch,
have
though?
to be watching it. I want to be watching it. It wasn't like I got to turn it off. Anyway.
Worth a watch,
American
though?
Sniper. Huh?
Worth a watch?
If you... it's the other thing my wife said too is like, well, it's a true story. You can't go knocking a true story. You can't say, well, they should have done this. It was a true story,
Right.
So, it being a true story does make it more desirable to watch.
Based on a true story, right?
Yeah. So the only other thing I'm like really into, and I would recommend anyone watch if they haven't, and especially if you are a Breaking Bad fan, is Better Call Saul. I really think that is a great a great show. It's really starting to develop. Character development is really amazing. So just get on.
Bob Odenkirk does such a good job in that show.
Yeah, really does. So all right, let's go to Peter. Do you have anything you are?
I do. As a matter of fact.
And before you start, we'll just let Joe and Doug know that. What we do is this. It doesn't have to be movies or TV. It can be a book you're reading, video games you're playing, whatever you're just geeking out on. So as he's doing that, you can kind of prepare your thoughts on that. And Peter.
Okay, so I am deep into The Black, as it were. Paul E. Cooley's book, The Black.
It's cold. Oh.
It is awesome. I really love this book. I like the street. I thought the street The Street was awesome for its own reasons. That was funny.
Yeah.
As all get out. But The Black is a very serious story. It's a very serious kind of thriller. I don't want to give away any of it. I could say one word and you'd be like, oh, really? But I would just suggest just go and you can listen to it for free. Find it on iTunes, Paul E. Cooley, or look up The Black. I mean, you can also support him by buying his book. But if you want to check it out first, you can go ahead and listen to a couple chapters of it and see how much you like it. And then, oh man, it is. He takes a little while. It's a little bit of build up. So about, I don't know, at least a third of the book is just build up. And I was at one point I was kind of like, I hope this is going somewhere. And just when you get to that point, he starts dropping like the serious stuff, and you're like, oh, can't wait for the next chapter, dude. I'm like dying for the next chapter. I know this is sacrilege. I'm gonna commit sacrilege right now, but like, I look forward to Monday mornings to listen to the Champion, right? Yeah. But I look more forward to Friday, Black Friday.
Okay.
So
Black Friday.
I'm looking. That's what Cooley does. That's what he calls it.
Yeah.
So I'm actually liking Cooley's book that's going on now more than Scott's book that's going on now.
Oh,
I know.
You son of a bitch.
Oh God.
And Joe and Doug, Scott Sigler. He's a really big friend and fan, or we're a fan of his, but he's a show. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Scott Sigler.
He writes horror, but it's scientific based. Like all his stuff's scientific based.
Oh, he sounds like an author I'd like.
Oh yeah, you would like
definitely
him.
want to check out Contagious. And what is that? The first one, right? Contagious.
Infected was the first one.
Infected. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Infected series.
Trilogies: Infected, Contagious, and Pandemic.
You will love it. Yes.
Those are like board games.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's what I'm geeking on.
Okay. All right, man. Yeah.
I guess since I'm next in line, there's a number of things I'm excited about, some of which are just completely random off the wall. So I saw the new Mad Max trailer this week.
Yeah.
Holy shit, does it look awesome. And I'm really excited about this for the geekiest of reasons, because I really love movies that have practical effects. Not like CGI stuff, but like, you remember the old school Tremors series?
Sure.
I love those sorts of movie effects where they're, and The Thing as well, where they're creating all these amazing things with robots and makeup and, all that. And that's why I was really excited about the Evil Dead kind of reboot stuff that they're doing.
Yeah. TV show?
So those are all, and now that they're doing the Mad Max practical effects thing, and the storyline, the images that they show in the trailer are just awesome. Like the woman snipping off her own chastity belt. So, like, that was one of the coolest things that I've seen all year. So it really almost, it looks like the bad guy in this one is gonna be almost a Joss Whedon villain.
Right.
Because Whedon really likes to use misogyny as a mark of, this is the bad guy.
Right.
Like the Avengers, for example, when Loki basically calls the Black Widow a cunt in British.
Right.
So that's going to be really, really awesome. Which also gives me a good segue into the Avengers movie that's coming up.
Oh yeah.
So I'm a big fan of the Blacklist, and I'm really excited to see what Spader's going to do with this.
And the latest trailer came out today, right?
Did it?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, go look it up. The latest trailer came out, and it features Black Widow kicking some ass.
Good. I heard in this movie that they're going to explore her backstory a little more, which out of everybody that they've put on screen, I think that it's Romanoff that really needs her own kind of story.
And I'd like to explore her backstory, if you know what I'm saying.
All right, and Doug. Doug,
right
what
there,
are you
right there
geeking
it went. Sorry, folks. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
My latest thing was I was reading a Terry Pratchett novel when he died.
Oh.
Oh, that makes this all very timely.
Wow.
I do my usual thing, and whenever a major person, influential person dies, I write a memorial haiku and post it to Facebook. So I did my Terry Pratchett memorial haiku, and then finished reading that book.
How did the book end?
All his books are awesome. I love that series.
Is it the Ringworld series?
Completed the book
Discworld.
before he died. He completed that book before he died, or
the last couple of books he did before he died, he mostly wrote with co-authors, and I mean, I think he was suffering from Alzheimer's and having trouble getting everything put together, so that's not surprising. But this was one of his later ones called Making Money, and that was an awesome book. He writes such great characters, and the dialogue is just awesome, and it's just all this wicked tongue-in-cheek stuff that just completely pokes fun at accountants and lawyers and everything with every page. It's just such an amazing guy. It's such a shame he's gone.
I have to admit, I'm gonna throw my geek card in the trash can at the moment, but I've never read a Terry Pratchett novel. I have played the video game Discworld, which was a trip. So I think I'm gonna have to start with the first book in the series and go from there. But you know what? The beauty of that is that I haven't read that yet, so I still get to experience it with fresh new eyes.
Mm-hmm. There are recommendations that I would make, and the first book is not necessarily the best one to get into the real characters. He's got, there are certain characters who show up over and over again in different stories, and they, each time the character gets deeper and deeper, and that's not the characters from the first novel. They almost don't appear at all in the rest of the series. But there's Commander Vimes, there's Granny Weatherwax, and there's Death. And his portrayal of Death, and all of the novels that rotate around Death, they're just great. That character is done so well. If you want one that you had to read to get the flavor, just go for something like Reaper Man.
Reaper Man, okay. I'm writing that down right now. Reaper Man. Okay. Brian.
It's funny since you guys mentioned Archer, because during my time enjoying this lovely apartment myself, I've been binge watching Archer for the last week.
Awesome.
And as I watched this, I'm like, why the hell have I not seen this earlier? Because
you just started watching it.
Yes. It was I finally, after finishing all the current seasons of Arrow and all this stuff, I'm like, okay, Archer's next in line. And as soon as I just, oh my god. I freaking love Pam. She's hilarious.
One of the...
Oh, wait till you get to Archer Vice.
I am on Archer Vice right now.
Oh god.
When she lost all that weight and she's a coke addict.
So would it surprise anybody if I just came out and said that Krieger's my favorite character? Like that? Obviously not. Okay.
I haven't watched the show.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, Pete, you and I have watched a bunch of episodes, but it was like we watched some a year ago. We haven't really been, or a couple of years ago. We haven't really been keeping up on it.
It's amazing.
It's fresh in my brain right now, and it's because
Krieger is the scientist that they have on the show, and he's their version of Q. If Q was just insane.
Now,
and
granted, this was before the whole stupid crap that's happening right now. Their agency is named ISIS.
Oh right.
Yeah. And they had to rename it because they didn't want to be associated with.
Wow.
Right. Unfortunately.
Jeez.
Archer did it first.
Right.
So. But
if I was a writer for that show, I would actually have them take on ISIS.
That would be interesting. And
actually have the team go over there and wipe them out, not for national security reasons, but for copyright infringement or something.
Took our name.
That would be great, because Dear Lord, Adam Reed, the lead creator, he's so hilarious. Who actually also does the voice for Ray
Yeah.
in the show. The writing alone, I was sold.
You've
Yeah,
seen C-Lab?
Yes, I have.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
I have seen
C-Lab.
C-Lab. C-Lab, Frisky Dingo, I've seen it all. But besides that, I've been playing more of Destiny because I enjoy pain for some reason. It's been fun. Other than that, I went to Movie Trading Company and I found this lovely, lovely gem. It's a Blu-ray triple feature of all 3 Predator movies.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Stick
Yep.
around.
And I watched all of them, and it was
Do that chop up.
great. I just love that. Want some candy? Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
and
man.
you can say what you want about the Robert Rodriguez produced one. It was a pretty good reboot, despite some flaws like having Topher Grace in your movie. But
I liked it. No, I liked that one. I thought it was cool. I mean,
Yeah.
different. It
was different.
It wasn't a great movie as in the world of cinema, but it was very enjoyable to watch.
It passed, you know.
You know,
and
I don't. As much as I love the Predator movies, I don't think anybody's going to be comparing them to Citizen Kane. I mean, like, I just can't see them making it into the Criterion Collection.
Right.
Well, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas made it into the Criterion Collection. Godzilla, the first one, made it to the Criterion Collection. Watership Down made it to the Criterion Collection. They're getting a little bit more flexible now.
Did the first Aliens movie make it to the Criterion Collection?
Sure.
No, but then again, it's
it
Fox.
deserves to be in there.
Then
Prometheus, not so much. Aliens, yes.
But then again, we're talking about 20th Century Fox. The same people who are keeping us from getting a unaltered version of Star Wars re-released by Disney.
Right.
So, yeah. And other than that, I've been rereading the John Carter of Mars books.
Ah, yes.
Because at my job, we just got the first 5 in a nice leather-bound book for $20.
Wow.
Hey, Brian, those are the 5 you're going to see. You know why? Because those are the 5 that are not in copyright anymore. Those are open. What is it? Public domain.
Public domain.
Oh,
But
yeah.
but 6 from 6 on, they're all still under copyright or owned by some property. I can't. I think it's
By the
Burroughs
Bur-
Incorporated.
Yeah.
But that's why, like, because when I did the Burroughs books, I actually listened to them through audiobooks, and it went from 1 to 5, and that was it. You can't get an audiobook for 6 on.
Which is
I-
it's such a tease, it's messed up.
Tick, tick,
So-
tick, 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 tick.
With pictures, the
Yes.
copyright
Time.
expires like 90 years after the author dies. Is it the same way for books, or?
Something like that. I'm not sure.
I think it
Or-
depends on the copyright or
And it's also when that law existed, because he released his first book in 1912. So at that time, copyright law was different up until when it was public domain. And,
Yeah,
But-
I think that
yeah,
was...
Mike, you are right. Time. We got to stick
All
on
right.
time. So time for the game.
Okay. So I cannot find my I key mapped everything and it's gone. So I have the backup on my phone, so let's see if this works right. All right. So before we do this, we need to decide this really quick. Joe and Doug, one of you needs to be the contestant, and one of you will be on the panel with the rest of them, with Peter and Brian. So one is the matchee, and the other one will be along with the other matchers. Would anyone volunteer? Doesn't matter.
I can be the contestant.
Okay. All right.
Volunteers tribute.
You ain't saving anybody's life here, buddy. Okay, here we go. All right. And what is your
Hey,
last
are we?
name, Joe?
Wait a minute. Are we doing notes or are we doing honor system?
Oh, you're gonna need if does everyone have a piece of paper around they can write on and hold up something they can hold up, piece of paper or whatever.
I'm gonna have to run over and grab one. Let me.
All right. I apologize on that. Yeah.
No, that's okay. 1 second.
Yeah. How's that sound? Sound all right?
It'll do.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll do, pig. It'll do.
Give me a chance to. Okay.
Okay. So this is literally just like match game. But here's the intro, and here we go. Joe, get ready to match wits with the MythWits, starring Peter Bryant. Hey. And Doug, who I don't know pronounce his last name, drink.
Yanega.
Hey, there you go. And
Yanega.
Brian Olvera. As we play the geek-studded, high-pressure, no money, MatchWits 15. And here's the host of MatchWits, me. Switching is flawless, Peter. You'll be read a question in which you will be asked to fill in the blank, Joe. Fill in the missing blank with any word but blank. Be sure to reveal that word, and you're going to have our MatchWit panelists take a stab at your blank. Meaning, they're going to predict what your blank is. We'll first take a look at the answers, and then we'll reveal your blank. There will be 5 rounds with 1 question per round. For every correct match our panelists make with you, they will be awarded 1 million points. For every correct answer they match with each other, they will get 500,000 points. You have time to get to know each other on our question and answer on our interview session. So now we're going to play for the PowerPoints and go for the low-hanging fruit. Are you going to go for the low-hanging fruit, or are you going to go for the PowerPoints? That's what I meant to say. So,
Yes, I know.
without any further ado, let's go. I thought I would have ended right then, but that would have been awesome. Hey, stop! Okay. It's just flawless. It's so good.
We had a
Okay.
soundboard all set up, but
I know. I am so pissed. Okay, here we go. Question number 1. Now, Joe, we're going to ask you this question, okay? And you will have taken the answer. You lock in your answer first, but we're going to ask all the other ones to lock in their answers, and they'll display their answers first. Then we'll go to you. All right? So.
Oh, so this is kind of like a reverse Family Feud.
Yeah, or a inverse match game. So.
Okay.
Here's number 1. Here we go. When Little Miss Muffet got... Oh, and these are all entomologically related in some way, shape, or form.
There we go.
we tailored it to you guys.
Yes. When Little Miss Muffet got up from her tuffet, she was horrified to learn that she had sat on a blank. And... Now... Reading the question one more time, lock in your answers, gentlemen. When Little Miss Muffet got up from her tuffet, she was horrified to learn that she had sat on a blank. Somehow signify that you are locked in, so I don't have to keep reading this forever.
Oh, I'm
Locked
locked
in.
in.
Locked in.
Locked in.
And Doug, locked in. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so we will start with Peter. Peter, when Little Miss Muffet got up from her tuffet, she was horrified to learn... Let me switch to you. She was horrified to learn that she had sat on a blank.
Corgi-sized Veromite.
Okay. A corgi-sized Veramite.
There was
Somebody
blood on
record
the
that
saddle,
answer.
baby. Blood
Hey,
all
Pete.
around.
Pete, you are also responsible for recording all the answers, okay? All right. And now we'll jump to Doug. Doug, when Little Miss Muffet got on her tuffet, she was horrified to learn that she had sat on a roach. Okay. Are we going to clarify? Never mind. We won't clarify which kind of roach. And
Was it in Colorado?
all right. And if I hit the right picture of Brian instead of the other picture of Brian, I'll switch to him. Brian, when Little Miss Muffet got up from her tuffet, she was horrified to learn that she had sat on a blank.
Japanese hornet.
A Japanese hornet.
She
Ouch.
would know that immediately.
Oh, yeah.
That would be really painful.
Things are bigger than your
Alright.
thumb.
Well, Joe, let's see if you are able to match any of our panelists. When Little Miss Muffet got up from her tuffet, she was horrified to learn that she sat on a...
Jimmy Buffett.
No matches. No matches, guys, but some excellent answers. I am very impressed. I got to hand it to you. You guys get a golf clap for those so far, okay? So
Wait, so are you guys trying to match me, or am I trying to match you?
Yes and yes.
Nobody wins any money, so we just generally make funny answers.
Like I said, it's
All right,
high
fair
risk,
enough.
low money earnings. So,
High risk, low reward. Hey, I'm a scientist. It makes sense.
So, number two, here it is. When Brundlefly had trouble leaping over the building because he was hung like a blank.
Yes, I got it.
Brundlefly had trouble leaping over the building because he was hung like a blank.
Someone has to match this. Someone. I don't care if it's Joe. Someone has to match it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brundlefly had trouble jumping over the building because he was hung like a blank.
We're good.
Are we locked in, gentlemen?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Joe
Yep.
and
Here we go.
Doug.
Yep, I'm locked in.
All right. Stop the music. There we go. All right. Peter Bryant. Brundlefly had trouble jumping over the building, and that would be because he was hung like a...
Maggot.
You are balls in on this whole entomology thing. So
I am.
That's good for you. Okay.
Maggots don't have genitalia.
See,
I know, right? God, idiot.
what happens when you bring a scientist to the...
No.
All right, Dougie. What do you got there? You got
Horsefly.
A horsefly. Oh my God.
Oh, nice.
You matched me, but that's I don't count because I thought about that. Hung like a
Nice, Doug.
fly.
Good answer.
Yes. All right. Well, that's good. I like that. Pete, you got that recorded. And Brian, when Brundlefly had trouble jumping over the building because he was hung like a
Horsefly.
Nice.
Awesome.
All right. Two panelists have 500,000 each. Pete, record that
Am I
for
keep
me.
track of that too? Okay, got it.
Yes. All right. And Joe, now I know it's tempting to, possibly change that because that's such a good answer, but please stick to your scientific what is that called? Ethics.
Scientific integrity.
And give us your original answer when Brundlefly had trouble jumping over the building because he was hung like a...
I went with the nerdiest possible answer. There's going to be like two entomologists laughing at this. Springtail's furcula.
Oh, God.
I wish I could laugh at that. I really do. Like it feels
No,
like it
it's
should be
the-
funny.
It's the organ on their abdomen that allows them to jump, and it's in the place in a human where the,
Oh wow.
Oh.
So
yeah.
Boing.
Oh, God. Hey, I do that sometimes.
It's just about as long as their body, and it acts like a spring.
It's a pogo
Nice.
stick.
Hey, mine works
In
like that in the
all
morning
the
when I gotta go.
different
When I first get up.
Does it? Is that
goes
you know what?
anywhere.
My dad had a term for that. It was called the eamho.
Emho?
Yes,
Emo?
the early morning hard on.
Okay.
Ah.
Next question, please.
That being said, tough crowd. When you kill one blank, 1,000 come to the funeral. When you kill one blank, 1,000 come to the funeral.
Got it. I'm in.
Okay.
I got
When
something.
you kill one blank, 1,000 come to the funeral. I mean, it's entomologically related because, my
Yes.
dad used to always say that to me when I stomped on something bug-related, so I thought I would let you guys have a shot at it. At that blank.
All
All right.
I'm going for worst pun of the night.
Well,
Good.
all right, but it's a long-standing tradition to win that, so we'll see. Peter, when you kill one blank, 1,000 come to the funeral.
Scarlett Johansson.
You are on fire tonight, my friend. Wow. All right, Doug. When you kill one blank,
to be fair, who doesn't want to see 1,000 Scarlett Johansson?
Hey, that's what I'm saying.
1,000 dead Scarlett Johanssons. Anyway, when you kill one blank, 1,000 come to the funeral. Doug, what do you got?
I got B.
B.
Okay.
Kill one bee,
One bee.
1,000 come to the funeral. Hey, sometimes going for the obvious can win, can get you somewhere.
And it could also be coming to your funeral, because if you step on a bee, they come and attack you by the thousands.
Oh, yeah, they might be coming to your funeral. Oh, very good, yes.
Yes, that's true.
Especially if there's Japanese buggers.
All right, Big Bad Brian. When you kill one blank, 1,000 come to the funeral.
I kind of took the same route. I put fire ant.
Ah.
Ooh, that's like a sleepless night right there. All right.
Mike, you ever been bitten by a fire ant?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I say aptly named. Aptly named.
It burned. Yes, it burned.
Right.
Oh, it burned. All right, Joe. When you kill one blank, 1,000 come to the funeral.
One ant. I don't know if you can see that. As
One
in
ant?
family member?
Oh, I get it.
1,000
Yeah. Ant, right.
Oh, all right.
As I said, worst pun of the night.
Mike, you want to give it to him?
I
Close?
I do because, you know, what is that called? I almost said the wrong word.
Homogeneous?
No, what the hell? Homophonically. Yes, thank you. Homophonically, it works. So,
All right, so how does that work? Who gets the points?
I guess
so that would be
me.
Brian.
Because I
gets
put
one- yeah,
fire.
because
Yeah.
Joe doesn't get points, but you know, because he's
Oh.
the matcher. So, but
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
Brian with 1,000,000 points. So yeah.
Nice. Good job.
All right. Okay, here we go. Let's just jump right to the next one, please, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of any other names for this guy, so he got the really bad name of Manny the Mantis. Really pissed off his wife, so she bit off his blank.
Oh.
Manny the Mantis really pissed off his wife, haven't we all? She got so mad that she bit off his blank.
I'm in.
I guarantee you that if you go for the obvious, you will not match Pete, but you will be entertained nonetheless by Pete's one. That being said...
I'm going to try to match Joe, so I'm set.
All right. Manny the Mantis really pissed off
All right,
his
I
wife.
got it.
So she bit off his blank. Peter, regale us with your...
All right, so normally, you know, mantis, they bite off the head, right? But
Yes.
she was very excited and missed a little bit, so she got just the tip.
Hashtag just the tip. You hit it. That's good. Again.
And since Brian's been watching Archer all week, that's why he's laughing so hard, because...
Phrasing.
All right, Doug. I don't expect you to, you know, get anywhere near where Pete's tip, but Manny the Mantis really pissed off his wife, so she bit off his...
Well, you wanted a match for Joe? A good chance he's got that. Yanega.
Yanega.
Ah, that's a good one.
Okay.
Oh, that makes it sound like Joe didn't put it. Oh,
I went with the... I'm not gonna...
I
Next.
went with low-hanging fruit.
Hang on
Okay.
that.
All right, Brian.
the Yanega is the male intermittent organ.
It's the bug penis.
See, now I would have said, I'll hold my answer just in case, but
All
I have
right.
an answer for this one. All right, so Manny the Mantis, Brian, really pissed off his wife, so she bit off his blank.
Numbskull.
Skull.
I went a little PG there.
Yeah, but you I'm so proud
It was
of
either
you.
that or
You're doing
mandibles.
So well.
It was
Right.
either that or mandibles. I didn't know which one to choose.
That's what David said. David says the man, but he put a dash in there. Man dibbles.
Yeah, that's what I'm like, is it that or the numbskull? I don't know.
All right. Okay. So Joe, before you give your word, I was going to say bit off his proboscis, but that being said, which actually could have matched Pete's tip if you think about it.
Maybe
But
a little
anyway,
bit.
Joe, Manny the Mantis really pissed off his wife, so she bit off his blank.
I went with the most obvious possible answer: head.
Oh,
See that? And
It was
yes.
a double entendre.
Right. Hey, so do I get a?
I don't know.
I put numbskull.
I think that Brian and Doug should both get the answers here because they match.
Okay.
Technically.
First of all, Doug, I mean, that answer, which I can't even pronounce, went way over my head. So what is that? Is that a fancy way of saying head?
No, it's the bug pecker.
Oh, bug pecker.
The
Bug
bug
dick.
pecker. Okay.
Oh, that's me and me and.
Oh,
I think
so
me
I
and,
would say that then maybe Pete and Doug get a match then.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And then I matched with
It's
Joe.
a double entendre. It matches.
Okay.
Whoever
You match with
alluded to
Joe, so that gives you. Hold
So
on.
that's.
I got it. All right, let's go.
You got
Next
it?
one.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh.
All right. How many have we done? This is number 4. We're on number 5.
It's gonna be the last
right?
one, right? Number
Yes,
5 is the
yes.
last one.
Okay. so give
Doug,
us
I
the
really
score.
wish I would have thought of Adiagus. That was good.
In entomology circles, this is a blast. That's awesome.
All right, Peter. What is our score?
Why? You need to know? Okay, fine.
What I'd ask.
Brian is at 2 million. Doug is at 500,000. I'm at 500,000. And what did I do? Joe doesn't get points though, does he?
He's
No,
he's
Joe
really
doesn't
trying to
I
match.
don't.
No, he doesn't get points. All right, so that's where we are.
It's
Joe
the
is the
inverse
challenge.
contestant.
What's that?
Right.
Got it. Yeah, that's where we are. 2,500,000 and 500.
Okay. So why did that turn off? Here we go. So here's number 5, ladies and gentlemen. And this, I'm adding a separate thing to this. You will get 1 billion points additional if you match my answer, because I actually have an answer and it is the best answer. It is what actually, like, the answers actually prompted the question on this one, So that being said, here we go.
All right, Mr. Fancy Pants.
If water beetles sit on water, it only stands to reason that dung beetles sit on blank. If water beetles sit on water, it only stands to reason that dung beetles sit on blank.
This is like a faux pas. I can sense it. I'm gonna overthink this. It's gonna screw me over.
Yes, for the only chance to ever win 1 billion points on the MythWits.
I'm ready.
Oh, wow.
Everybody?
So this isn't like exchangeable for money or
No.
Could it be exchangeable for internet points?
It can be exchangeable for 1 billion mites.
Billion mites.
Yes, in small
I think most of
unmarked
us have 'em.
bugs.
Oh, I'm sure I could like go out and do some lazies and get that. So let's keep this light.
Okay.
There were like
Alright.
2 entomologists laughing at that. I'm sorry. It's
Alright.
Oh.
I'm in, Mike.
I hate
I'm locked in.
when entomological humor flies over my head.
I get it. Right.
Oh, it's a terrible joke. Instead of laughing, they were probably groaning like, I can't
That
believe you
really
made that
stung.
joke.
All right,
Alright.
Peter. If water beetles sit on water, it only stands to reason that dung beetles sit on blank.
Well, I wanted to stay away from dung, but I wanted to get kind of close to it, so I said corn nuggets.
Corn nuggets. That did not match me.
Oh, well, you know.
Doug, if water beetles sit on water, it only stands to reason that dung beetles sit on
Their balls.
their balls.
That's good.
That's good.
that gets 50 points just for the creativity. Okay.
50 points.
All right. And Mr. Brian, if dung beetles sit on water, it only stands to reason that dung beetles sit on
Crap. They sit on crap, Mike. Crap.
That's crap. That is crap.
That's the crap.
That is crap. So none
Crap
of
beetles.
none of the panelists have matched me. But I'll tell you right now, if Joe matches me, I owe him a beer. So there's that. All right, Joe, if water beetles sit on water, it only stands to reason that dung beetles sit on...
Shit.
Shit. Hey, it's Brian.
That did not match me. Oh, wait a minute. Did that match Brian technically?
Match Brian, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's a all right.
They got matched too. Damn, that's 1,000,000 points. All right.
All right. So
I was
I
gonna
have
write
to show-
crass, but you know.
Oh, wait a minute, Mike, before you say yours, David
Yeah.
Benavides said the crapper.
The crapper. Ooh,
Right.
that's a nice one. David did not match me either. So for me, if dung beetles sit on water, it only stands to reason. I mean, if water beetles sit on water, it only stands to reason that dung beetles sit on
Stools. Oh, nice.
Stools.
Very nice.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's good.
like
That's
that.
good. That's good. And good one there, Mike. Good one.
More than a golf clap for that one.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. That is all I have. Pete, who has
Excellent.
won?
Well, I think it's no surprise that our winner this week by a landslide is Brian at 3,000,000 points.
Wow.
Doug comes in at not a close second, comes in a very far second at 550 or 500,050, which just eked me out because I had 500,000. I come into last place. Great game, everybody.
As usual.
Thanks,
All
sir.
right.
Peter, your answers still win in the long run. But who's here for the long run, right?
Right. Speaking of which, we are at the end of our show.
Statement.
What? No news?
Oh, news, right. What am I? I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, Brian. I'm trying to cut you out. See how I am?
Damn.
Damn, that's fucked up of me. All right,
I'm not
Brian.
gonna do you like that.
Sorry.
Before we start the news though, Joe and Doug, you guys still okay to stay with us or?
Okay.
You guys have me until like 1 in the morning.
Excellent.
So
Okey-dokey.
that's what time I normally go to bed. So
All right.
let's do this.
And you're spending your time with us. You have no life. And the news with Brian.
As little as we do.
Okay, so I did a little bit of digging for some insect-related news, and our lovely friends at DARPA came up with something interesting. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but with microprocessors and a small motherboard they put on these beetles, they can actually read the muscle spasms for their flight muscles, and in a sense, remote control those beetles with the motherboard.
Oh,
RC
yeah,
flying beetles?
RC flying beetles. That's what I saw from DARPA. DARPA's putting
Oh
money
my
into
God.
this. So we have
I love
cyborg
DARPA.
Gotta love DARPA.
What can't they do?
So what they're trying to do is they're trying to make a better interface for like prosthetic limbs for soldiers who have had their limbs blown off.
That seems to be some of the basis, but it's also for just for some research for I believe the company's called the Quasar, which is for developing small robots in search and rescue missions. So like really small drones. So it's micro drones. So flight dynamics and stuff like that. That's what they're testing on these beetles.
It's
and
RC Beetles, dude.
I could see something like that actually being really useful because if you attach something like that to a cockroach or a beetle, and beetles are harder to raise than cockroaches, but if you attach it to a cockroach, you basically have a disposable drone.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they're doing because they're mainly like I said, it's mostly for flight patterns and stuff, because this is being conducted at the University of California. So DARPA's paying for it, but
UC Berkeley. Is it Berkeley? I assume it's Berkeley.
It's not Riverside.
It's on UC Berkeley's website right now.
Oh my God! I could just see Amazon wanting to get a piece of that. Disposable drones.
Oh wait, Doug, you work for University of California. Which one is it?
It's Berkeley.
It's Berkeley. Okay.
That's not me.
I was gonna say that'd be cool. It's like, well.
So this drone stuff actually kind of scares me because if
Terminator beetles.
Well, no. If you think about it, a lot of the stuff that like the people at Walmart do is restocking shelves. So it doesn't seem like it's that difficult to rig up a drone that would just automatically figure out how much merchandise is there by weight and just kind of run into the back, grab some stuff, run it out, and just kind of put it on those hooks.
Yeah, just goes and gets an Xbox.
Right?
There goes my job.
Said every American over the age of 80 working at Walmart.
Right.
Anyways.
Hey, I got my start at
what else you
Walmart.
got?
It's a good company.
Can the drone go, "Let me see your ticket, please"?
Welcome to Walmart. It says it like
Welcome
HAL.
to Walmart.
No, it has to say it like HAL 9000.
Oh, okay.
That'd be great.
It's a skeeter at Walmart.
I can't let you.
A greeter, skeeter.
I could tell you right now, they're gonna keep people because it wouldn't be too welcoming to have a swarm of bees welcome you to the store.
Especially if you have a phobia of bees.
Right. All right, Brian. What's the next story?
Although one of them just buzzes right in front of you. I can't let you do that.
So, remember back in 2013, the Hadron Collider went down for some renovations and upgrades?
Yes.
It's finally back up and running, baby! Doomsday's upon us! I'm just kidding.
Bring on the black hole!
Bring on the black hole!
Well, then we can all talk to our daughter through time and space.
Right, yeah.
There you go.
Bring on the Tesseract!
Or we can finally incarnate the Flash, but whatever. Everyone's got their goals.
You know what we really need? We need to find the Genesis planet to get back Nimoy.
Yes. Yes.
We need that Genesis planet. But, after 2 years of renovations and upgrades, the Hadron Collider is back up and running. So they're going to start doing some more tests again, and we'll see where this goes. If you wake up the next day, nothing bad happened.
Everybody's talking about the doomsday scenario with the Large Hadron Collider, but there's something that I've really always wanted to try with a particle accelerator.
Put cats in it?
Jesus.
Sorry.
That might actually be a better idea than I had.
Okay.
I always wondered how long it would take that thing to heat up a cup of coffee.
Oh.
Like, I just want to take a trip to CERN with a big coffee mug and be like, "Hey, can you guys make this
just
hot?"
rest it on the coil, rest it on the coils of the collider.
Hey, could you shoot some photons through this coffee and warm it up for me?
Exactly. Just be like, "Hey, look, I have to be back to work in like 30 minutes, but I was wondering if you could heat my lunch. I'm just curious to see if that's a capability."
If anything happens, that cup of coffee will be in another dimension. It just disappears.
And then Joe turns. Joe turns green.
It just randomly shows up at my desk like 3 months later. Like, oh, I thought I lost this, but it's just the LHC.
But
right where it needs to be.
No, it needs to be a giant mutated cup of coffee that shows.
It's like
you guys aren't thinking big enough. It's
like this
microwave popcorn. How fast can the LHC, nuke popcorn?
You just quickly dip it in the beam's path and then pull back, and then it's like
there's a hole in the center of it. Like, fuck.
Yeah,
it's like.
But then that popcorn just. It also like turns your soul into popcorn, and it all gets mixed together, and it ends up in a very Lovecraftian situation there.
Lovecraftian. Oh man, you just used Lovecraft as an adjective. That's awesome.
Oh,
okay,
God, here we
Brian.
go.
Wonderful. All right, so next news, since someone mentioned the Flash, I don't know which one of y'all did.
No, it was me.
Warner Brothers is looking to directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller to direct the Flash Flash movie. The same guys who did the Lego movie and 21 Jump Street. What do you guys think? If they go for it, do you think it'll be interesting?
Now, is it
Lego
the
movie was
same?
good.
Is it the same Flash that's on the WB right now?
No, it
No,
won't be.
unfortunately.
I
Of course not.
guarantee you it won't be. And
Unfortunately.
They can't get their shit together to do something like that.
Well,
it's funny,
you know, I would-
it'll probably be okay, but I really like the two campy W, or a CW, whatever.
Yeah.
Shows. I
Oh
really
yeah,
do.
it's
They're
not
campy
it's
as
not
hell.
WB anymore. It's CW, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love them. I'm a big fan of the Flash and the Arrow. I know you were talking about that, Brian. You finished up the Arrow too, and oh my God, it's like, yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I just like literally whatever little bit of medicine for the ADD was.
You
that
know,
was in the
so
movie,
this
just
is so
drop
Flash is a DC property, right? Are they gonna be merging it into their kind of Justice League?
Yes.
Probably.
They're trying to copy Marvel because what Marvel is doing is actually good and it works. That's the rule of thumb in Hollywood, unfortunately. If it works, do it.
Well, I've been kind of comparing them in my head, and it seems like what DC is doing is they're doing the opposite of Marvel. So what Marvel's been doing is they've been doing all their character development in standalone movies, and then combining all those franchises occasionally into one big movie, whereas DC, the latest kind of incarnation of what they're doing seems to be to make a big movie that introduces all the characters and then just kind of split all of them off.
We'll see what happens because the Justice League movie isn't even going to really happen until they introduce some more key characters.
Yeah.
You still have Cyborg and Green Lantern.
And
Green Lantern had a movie, but that was like the most awesomely bad movie ever.
Didn't happen.
That's like saying the Hulk had a movie.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. I watched the Green Lantern movie, and
You poor guy.
I'm gonna defend it.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna defend it. So there was this storyline in the comics where basically the Green Lantern messed up, and I can't remember exactly what it is. I think he killed his girlfriend or something like that. One of your podcast viewers will probably correct me on this, but
right.
The Green Lantern, the Justice League, was black, and in the Green Lantern movie, it was played by Ryan Reynolds, who was white.
That's Hal Jordan. In the cartoons, they did the second incarnation, which is Jon Stewart, who took over Hal Jordan.
Who hosts The Daily Show.
And who does not host The Daily Show. So basically what happened was the first incarnation of the Green Lantern royally fucked everything up and killed someone, and he basically bent time and space to try to turn it back.
And then he became Parallax.
And he became the villain.
Yep.
The hero became the villain, and the second Green Lantern had to stop what was previously the hero. And that is a great story. And and the way that what I came away from that first movie was that they set up that particular scenario as a sequel. So if they would have made one more Green Lantern movie, that would have been awesome.
Well, they are, but it's a complete reboot.
Yeah, of course.
Warner Brothers is like, yeah, they sweep it under the rug. Now,
so can I suggest my suggestion for a Green Lantern sequel / reboot?
You and like every other Green Lantern fan has been trying to do that, and yet Warner Brother doesn't listen. And I'm one of those Green Lantern fans. All right.
I just want to see Idris Elba fight Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Right? I want to see that second movie that I just described, starring Idris Elba as the guy who has to stop Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, but the problem is Idris Elba is technically part of Marvel since he's the gatekeeper in Thor, which is another reason why Ryan Reynolds will never be Green Lantern, because he is Deadpool for Fox and Marvel.
Which I think is a better choice.
How do we not have
my
enough
dream
actors
movie
for all
is
these
kind of-
superheroes?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna put Deadpool to the side because I have something on that. So speaking of Justice League, legendary animator, producer extraordinaire of the DC Universe, Bruce Timm, is coming back with a darker version, a darker incarnation of the Justice League. It's an animated movie, and it's called Justice League Gods and Monsters.
Ooh.
And it's a very, very interesting twist. It's only 3 members of this Justice League. You have the Superman character who's actually the son of Zod instead of Jor-El.
Ooh.
You have Diana, who's actually the wife of Orion, who is one of Darkseid's sons.
Okay.
And then you have Man-Bat, which is basically a vampire Bruce Wayne, because he used blood genetics to try and cure the cancer he had, which gave him a, science fiction-y vampirism.
Right.
So you got
They're basically like, hey, let's take Batman and make him into a vampire, because we're already halfway there with the Bat motif.
yeah.
Yep.
So it's interesting though. I'm
Makes
really
sense.
excited to see because Bruce Timm has done some good stuff for because Justice League cartoon. Enough said.
Hey, I don't know. I don't trust a guy with 2 first names.
Well, the last name is spelled with 2 M's.
I'm kidding.
So it's not unless if your name is Tim with 2 M's because your parents were too lazy to add the Y.
So it's
Shame on you.
So it's Bruce Timm, not Bruce Tin, as in like tin can.
No, Tim.
Okay.
Tim.
Like the Enchanter.
Like John Paul.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I got that.
Bruce Wayne.
I'm pretty sure I just relinquish any nerd cred that I had left. Because I don't know who Bruce Timm is, so yeah.
Hey, it's perfectly fine. Some people have their comic preferences. I myself am a Dark Horse and IDW fan. Anyways, so I discovered something interesting while we were talking about Fox. So starting April 10th, people will be able to purchase and download the Star Wars saga, either as a bundle or individually. 1 through 6, 1 through 3, 4 through 6, 4, or just 4, 5, and 6, or 4, 5, whatever. They'll be up for grabs in 4 days to download.
Download faux?
For free?
Like faux free? Faux?
For free?
More like for money, because this is like download services. But still, you don't have to freaking buy that ungodly prequel trilogy anymore when you want just the original 6.
Yeah,
Like,
4,
that's 5, and
true.
6.
You have not been able to stream any Star Wars movie.
Nope.
They're probably doing that as a form of kind of building up to the J.J. Abrams release.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
working,
So-
especially since they're going to show the new trailer in a couple weeks during Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the new Star Wars movies. I kind of feel like Abrams turned Star Trek into Top Gun in space.
Well, the reason he did that was the reason he took Star Trek. It's a quote. He said that one of the reasons I took this franchise is because it's the closest thing to Star Wars I will ever get. And now he has Star Wars. Because here's the thing: most of my friends who watched Star Trek said that was a good Star Wars movie. Because it felt like a proper Star Wars movie than a Star Trek movie.
No, I think Abrams.
I really feel like Abrams wanted to just kind of cast Tom Cruise as Kirk.
No, you know what? No,
I really feel like it was a ripoff of Top Gun.
I think Abrams will do a good job with Star Wars. I really do. I think he was the wrong property for Star Trek, even though I enjoyed the movies. They weren't Star Trek movies. They were
sci-fi adventure movies.
They were sci-fi adventure movies, right? They weren't really true to the field. That's my opinion. I
don't know. This is gonna sound really, really petty, but I have kind of a grudge against J.J. Abrams for ruining my favorite sci-fi franchise.
Which one was that? Oh, Star Trek.
Aliens. And he wasn't involved with Prometheus.
How did he ruin it? What did he ruin?
So he did Lost.
Right.
And I wasn't a big fan of Lost because Lost it was one of those shows that couldn't really seem to tell the difference between building up a mystery and actually telling a story.
Wait a minute,
Right.
who did Lost?
So, J.J.
Abrams.
Abrams.
He's the one that
Did
did
he?
Lost. That's how he got his fame.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm gonna
Because I know, like, Eddie.
I'm
what
gonna
is it?
bring in the Prometheus connection for a second.
Kiskis and Horowitz
so-
did Lost too, didn't they?
Yeah. So J.J. Abrams did Lost, and I really liked the first season of Lost, but afterwards I really lost interest because what they kept on doing was they kept on building a mystery, and they built it up to the point where they just didn't know how to end it. So nobody really liked the Lost series finale because, you know, they just didn't know how to end it, and that to me was obvious from season 2.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was the writers. That's Kiskis and Horowitz, but they're the ones who were doing Once Upon a Time, which I do know about, and they're doing a better job at that. But
and the guy, one of the people who wrote for Lost, also wrote the movie Prometheus, which is kind of the worst sci-fi movie of all time, in my opinion.
Pretty bad, yes.
Yeah.
So
It's bad? Okay. I'm going to put my 2 cents on this. It was disappointing.
Yes.
Painfully disappointing. But I have seen worse sci-fi movies than Prometheus that
Hell
are
yeah.
bigger blockbusters.
what's
I have
a
seen
worse
Avatar.
sci-fi movie than
Avatar.
Yeah, Avatar was pretty awful.
It's not even a movie. It was a ride.
As a biologist, I have to disagree because
No, wait. Hey,
there are very few non-vital organs, and one vital organ that I would trade to spend like a day on that planet just to collect.
Joe, I'm going to agree with you on that one aspect. That was the one thing I liked about Avatar. I liked the
That is
biology.
true. The biology
I thought
is
that
great.
was cool as hell.
And to be fair, that's the only reason I like that movie.
That's the only thing that redeemed anything about it. But the story was so trite, so predictable. It was fucking god
It was
awful.
dances
Horrible.
with wolves in space with blue Smurf cat people.
Right.
I thought it was more the Disney Pocahontas.
Yeah, pretty much. It was all those.
I have a 9-year-old daughter, so I'm just gonna go
Jim
straight to the
Cameron-
Disney princesses movies.
Jim Cameron wrote this back in '95 and did not even think about touching it. He wrote it in '95, left it in a drawer. Does this sound familiar? George Lucas writing something in one draft and going ahead with it? Anyways.
Oh God!
It's like first draft.
I have blog posts that I've sat on for that long almost.
Anyways,
All right.
here's my point. I'm going full circle here. Let's not poo-poo Abrams until December 18th.
Yes, I agree.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair
Let's
enough.
just wait, because here's what I've seen. In the 88 seconds Abrams has graciously shown us when it's not even appropriate to show anything. There was practical effects. They went back to traditional roots of the franchise. And the cast is wonderful.
Yes.
So let's just
Really
wait
good
and
cast.
see. I'm not... Look, Abrams is hit or miss with me. Super 8 was just a stupid love letter to Steven Spielberg.
I actually like that movie.
Star Trek...
I actually like that movie.
Yeah, Star Trek was meh. All right? That's my rating. Meh.
Top
out of
Gun
10.
in space.
Okay, but let's wait. And now, the last article. There's actually been some leaked photos of the Deadpool movie that's being filmed right now in Canada.
Oh, that's gonna be awesome.
And it is confirmed that it is rated R. So
Oh, nice.
proper Deadpool
Yeah.
fans can stop crying with their thumbs up their asses. It's rated R. Get that thumb out of your ass and then wave it in the air.
Well,
So
there were
there's
people-
hope for the Punisher.
So-
There's hope for the Punisher too, right?
Maybe.
So have
Yeah,
you
actually there is.
you guys seen like the very limited footage that's online of the Deadpool movie?
That's actually test footage that they were doing to pitch to Fox.
Yeah, that was
Test
awesome.
footage is awesome.
It was spot
So,
on.
if
I'm
you
actually
haven't
about
seen
to
it,
screen
basically-
share the set photos in a minute, gentlemen.
All right, but we
So-
have about 6 minutes left, Brian. So we got.
Yep, I'm wrapping up. This is the last one. That is not CG. That is not concept art. That is Ryan Reynolds in a suit on a smashed car. Folks.
Nice. Yay.
We got some more here. And, oh, look at this. There's a video But
wait.
I know, but because of YouTube's finicky reasonings, I will not play it.
So now, what's the connection between this franchise and the X-Men franchise?
They haven't really gone into much detail with it. It all really depends on X-Men Apocalypse, because apparently, according to Hugh Jackman, he's going to play Wolverine one more time in. That's it. And we don't know if that's after Apocalypse or is Apocalypse his last time to be Wolverine. We'll see, because there's been speculation that Wolverine is going to be in the Deadpool movie, that Cable is going to be in the Deadpool movie, all the proper side characters. Again, it's all wait and see. Just like with Star Wars, the Warcraft movie, all these great franchises that are getting movies, let's just wait and see.
I didn't even know there was a Warcraft movie.
Comes out literally in a year from now.
All right,
so we'll see.
I'll wait for the Abrams Star Wars movie. I'll reserve judgment until then.
Yeah, that's where I am. You know, I don't want to have any opinions on it before it comes out, because like I was so disappointed with the episodes 1, 2, and 3. I mean, they were okay, but there was like so many things that I was disappointed with. I don't want to be set up again, because I think in some ways I set myself up to like it less because I had such high expectations. I think everybody did. So I don't want to have any expectations. This movie's going to be whatever the fuck it is. I'm going to go in with complete, like, just clean slate. Could be good, could be bad. See what happens.
You know, as the resident biologist, as long as they have cool animals, I'll probably be down for that.
I did, you know what, in that episode, the arena fight, I love those 3 animals they brought out. They were cool.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
They really were.
I will be honest. Okay. Have you...
And that's probably the best part of that particular trilogy.
Yes. I want to... Okay, this is something... If you gentlemen have not done this, and you own the Star Wars movies in any format, and you've never done this, do yourself a favor and do this. It's called the Machete Order.
Oh yeah, this is awesome.
It's the Machete Order, okay?
Yeah.
Someone has devised a way, by analyzing the scripts and the scenes, how to properly watch the entire saga to where it doesn't suck as much.
Really?
You start with 4, all right? You watch 4 all the way, and then you watch Empire. You watch it all the way, just as Darth Vader drops the bomb of "I'm your dad." Literally, that scene. Not the little scenes trickling at the end and credits. Literally, right when he says, "I'm your father," stop that DVD or VHS and then watch episode 2. Then
skip 1 altogether.
Yeah, 1 has no information to give to that saga. Then watch 2. Then 3. Then go straight to 6. And the way it plays out, it's almost on par with Godfather 2. It is that interesting.
Brian,
Really?
you can finish
2, 3,
5.
6.
You can finish 5, but literally as that plot twist hits, you stop the movie and go watch 2 and 3, and then it flows better.
You know, so my memory of the franchise is a little bit fuzzy, but it seems... I'm 27. This all came out before I was born, but...
Right.
Yeah. I wish I could have said that.
Yeah, there's an interesting story there that I'm just going to skip over and maybe tell you guys off camera. So it seems almost like it's reminiscent of Kill Bill, where they show the present and then they kind of, show a little bit more of the past, and then they show kind of the future, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's what he's saying.
Have they ever tried to do a fan edit and just edit the movies?
Yes, they have.
One of those? Okay.
They have.
I'd be interested to watch that. If
they actually did a fan edit of the prequels.
With all due respect, this is Star Wars, and it would really, really genuinely surprise me if they haven't tried a fan edit at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the fans that kept the god-awful holiday special alive to this day. When George Lucas said, he was quoted on this, if I could find the master negatives, I would burn them.
And I had the honor of seeing that when it was originally broadcast.
I did too.
Yeah,
I found a copy. I found a copy and watched it.
I didn't even think to ask about this. I didn't even think to ask about this, but in that fan edit one, the one where they say that the original trilogy wasn't so terrible, Where does the Christmas special fit in?
In the trash pile with episode 1.
In the
Right,
black hole.
Yeah.
Right.
In the Sarlacc pit with episode 1.
It's how we do on this show. We go, it didn't happen.
What?
Didn't
What,
happen.
what holiday special?
What are you talking about? What holiday special?
In
All
an
right,
entomological point of view, in an
Time
entomological
to
point of
wrap.
view, you go, wasn't B.
Tick tock, tick tock.
Yeah, but I saw you. I saw that wasn't B.
Wasn't big, right? All right, Mike.
Yes.
Let's wrap it up.
You sure?
All right, let's do this.
Yep.
It's only midnight.
Yeah, let's go. Come on.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready, and I'll
Oh God, I'm scared. All right. I don't know why. I've
we
ran out
fixed
of
this,
gas
right?
here. I think so. I just do closer, right? That's all.
You
I'm
make
doing
it sound like your computer's gonna blow up if you click the wrong icon.
I feel like I'm in rush hour right now.
All right.
Well, as of right now, there are no more bee problems. So.
Right. So, Mike, let her rip.
Okay. All right. So everyone else, stay quiet.
You've just enjoyed the MythWits. A special thank you goes out to our guests Joe Ballenger and Doug Yanega. I pronounced it Yanega. Visit the links below and please like Ask an Entomologist Facebook page. Join us for a live broadcast next week and every week, Mondays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, so you can participate in the chat rooms like our buddy David always does. If you miss our live show, you can always catch the encore episodes at MythWits.com and on our YouTube channel. Visit us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and iTunes. Make sure to do the like, follow, subscribe thing, and please give us a review on iTunes. It's common. We're working on it. It's important. MythWits is a Studio187.com production and is an attribution, non-commercial, no derivatives, Creative Commons work. You can download and share it with whoever you like. Just don't change it and don't try to make money with it. Make sure to check out Studio187.com for more cool stuff, and we will see you all next week.
Some people might